Elder Feng Yuhan's voice was calm but firm. Keep your mouth shut. If this spreads, we will regret it. The fallout could be serious. Do not take this lightly. All 4 disciples nodded, faces tight. The more they learned about the dimensional convenience store, the more they understood one slip could bring disaster. They dispersed to their sects, all except Lin Yijuan. He offered a quick excuse and drifted toward another district of the city. If I'm going to fish, I should at least buy a proper rod. Inside the quiet store, House stood with Qirome, the mother cat, before a hovering scroll. The all-encompassing primordial contract glowed softly in the air. Qirome blinked once. She already held Hao in awe. A floating contract did not surprise her. The terms mirrored MOCC's arrangement, except the pay. 10 spirit crystals for a 9-hour shift. Generous, though it barely mattered to her. Warm noodles for herself and her kittens would have been enough. She pricked her paw and let a drop of blood fall onto the scroll. It drifted to Hao. He pressed his palm to it, sealing the pact. Qirome became the store's first official guardian. Congratulations, host. First store guardian hired. Qirome's uniform and name tag have been delivered to the storage area. Please continue growing the store. Hao smiled at the black cat at his feet. Welcome again, Qirome. He crouched. I meant what I said before. You're not just a worker. You're a friend. Qirome dipped her head. Yes, master. I understand. Hao reached out, hesitated, then started to pull back, remembering who and what she was. Qirome leaned forward and pressed her head into his hand. He chuckled and scratched between her ears. All right then, let's work together. He stretched and nodded toward the back. Time to get your uniform. Uniform? Qirome tilted her head. Robes? Armor? Would she need to change into her human-like form? She could, but clothing felt strange. Yes, Hao said. Your own uniform. In the storage room, a large carton box sat neatly in the corner. Hao opened it and paused, eyes bright. Inside lay a full kit, a close-fitting black duty shirt, a charcoal mini tactical vest with a Velcro patch labeled SG1, a matching black mini cap stamped DCS, and a sturdy utility belt with a small baton clipped to the side. On top rested a cool silver name tag, engraved in black. Qirome. Wow, Hao breathed. They made this just for her. System. What do SGUD 1 and DCS mean? SGUD 1. Store Guardian Unit Division 1. DCS. Dimensional Convenience Store. Identifiers support recognition and authority at a glance. Hao nodded, impressed. That's clean. A thought tugged at him. What if she fights in her true form? Won't it tear? The uniform auto-adjusts to any shape or size. Perfect, Hao thought. With system craftsmanship, it would hold even if Qirome shifted into a massive beast. Qirome waited without crowding him, tail wrapped neatly around her paws. Hao crouched and lifted her with both hands. She didn't resist. He set her on his shoulder so she could peer into the box. Take a look, Qirome. This set is yours. Her eyes widened. She had roamed Sovereign City and seen every style of robe and armor, but nothing like this. Every piece had been tailored for a feline form, clean lines and precise stitching, an aesthetic unlike anything outside. Meticulous, purposeful, made for a guardian. Qirome's gaze snagged on the name tag. Her name, already engraved. How? I was hired minutes ago. She'd expected a plain kit at best, not something tailored to her. Had Hao prepared this in advance? Did he know I'd join? How far ahead can he see? Hao set a small black cap on her head, pulling her from the thought. As the fabric touched her, the crown parted into 2 neat slits that folded back to frame her ears. The cap seemed to sense her shape and adjust on its own. Her ears flicked free, sight and hearing unobstructed. The material felt soft against her fur. Hao blinked, delighted. It fits you, Qirome. Looks cool, too. She didn't know cool, but the tone was praise. Her tail twitched. Thank you, master. It suits me. Good. Want help with the rest? Yes, master. He eased the close-fitting duty shirt over her shoulders, smoothing the seams. The utility belt clicked around her waist. The baton sat snug at her side. Last came the charcoal vest, SGUD 1, on the patch, and the silver tag. Qirome. Everything settled as if it had always belonged there, the fabric subtly tightening and easing until it hugged her perfectly. I'll step back, satisfied. All set. You're on duty. Hiram stretched, then flowed into motion, 3 light bounds, a pivot, a soft landing. The uniform barely shifted. Weightless. She was used to fur alone. This felt like wearing nothing. Her eyes slid to the baton. A simple rod, or so it seemed. What is it for? Hal glanced at the system, then at her. It's called a baton. Yours isn't just for show, it adapts. Think weapon or tool, and it will become that. Imagine? She focused, picturing a weapon that matched her movement. A claw, sharp and fast. The baton rippled like black mercury, uncoiling around her right paw and hardening into a sleek, hooked talon that caught the light. She tested the edge and knew at once. It would cut through most things without protest. A low, please sound rumbled in her chest. Master, is this truly mine? Yeah, Hal said, smiling. You're our store guardian. Warmth bloomed under her ribs, less for the weapon than for the trust. She lifted her eyes. May I begin my shift? Go ahead. They stepped back into the shop. Hiram didn't wait for orders. She already knew what to do.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
Hiram's first stop was the corner where her children were huddled. She crouched beside them, her tail swaying playfully as she struck a proud pose, subtly showing off her new uniform. The 2 kittens blinked up at her in awe. One gave a tiny meow, the other followed with a louder meow, their tones carrying clear jealousy. Hiram let out a soft purr, amused. Train hard. You'll earn yours one day. After that, she slipped back outside. Her duty wasn't inside the store. That was her master's domain. No one would dare cause trouble with Hal around. But outside, that was her responsibility. Hiram stepped out into the alley, her senses sharpening at once. Her spiritual sense spread out, brushing against every surface it could reach. Her nose picked up scents riding the wind. Her ears flicked at the sound of shifting gravel, and her eyes scanned each corner and shadow. Then, she went further. She activated her innate ability, Vein of Shadow. Unlike spiritual sense, which could be blocked by certain tricks or techniques, Vein of Shadow didn't rely on spiritual chi. It read the world through shadows, sensing movement and life force. As long as 2 shadows were connected, even through walls or underground, she could feel anything moving between them. It didn't matter if someone hid their presence. If they touched the shadows, Hiram would know. In this alley, full of dark corners and overlapping shadows, her perception was nearly flawless. Nothing could pass by unnoticed. Of course, Hiram understood that she wasn't meant to stop anyone who simply wished to enter the store, nor would she prevent a suspicious-looking person from entering unless they caused trouble. That wasn't her role. Her master was the one who judged who was truly a threat and who wasn't. It wasn't her responsibility to decide who should or shouldn't be allowed into the store. Her task was simpler: keep the peace. Her job was to make sure the alley remained calm, ensuring no one disturbed the customers or caused any trouble. If anyone did try anything suspicious, she would step in to stop them. But as long as they respected the store and its customers, she had no reason to interfere. Inside the store, Hal stood behind the counter, checking his mission progress. Main Task 1. Sell 50 spicy version and 30 original version of beef-flavored or chicken-flavored instant noodles. Progress: 0/50 spicy and 0/30 original, 0/50 spicy and 2/30 original. Side Task 1. Accumulate 150 crystals from cola or lime fizz. Progress: 0/150, 15/150. Side Task 2. Hire 2 store guardians. Leaving the store defenseless isn't exactly a good idea, is it? Progress: 0/2, 1/2. Hal sighed. Still a lot of selling to do. The day passed like usual. Some customers came in, but quickly left without buying anything. It wasn't because they were poor. The issue was the prices. They were just ridiculously too high. Even the cheapest product cost a single crystal. That was out of reach for many. As night fell, MOCC finished her cultivation session. She felt stronger, the spiritual chi flowing through her in a new way. She had finally reached the 6th stage of the Heavenly King realm. It felt like stepping into an entirely new world. MOCC decided to have instant noodles for dinner. However, after eating, she didn't feel the usual burst of enlightenment. For a moment, she was confused. Then she realized it wasn't the noodles. Now that her realm had advanced, she needed more to enter the enlightenment state. She wasn't disappointed. It was just how things worked as she progressed. MOCC walked over to the counter. Little CC, Kurome is officially a member of the store now, Hao said casually as he ate his noodles in the corner. She's the first guardian of our store. MOCC had already guessed this would happen, but she hadn't thought it would be so soon. She smiled to herself. Thinking back, she had also been hired quickly, even faster than Kurome, as she had been recruited the first time she entered the store. She glanced toward the door, knowing exactly where Kurome was. Kurome wasn't inside, because her role was to stand guard outside. Well, that was to be expected. Kurome was much stronger than most, and it made sense that her duty would be to protect the store from outside threats. Anyone who dared to cause problems outside would quickly regret it. They'd be dead meat before they even understood what was happening. After all, Kurome wasn't someone you wanted to mess with. Outside, Kurome stayed alert as she stood beside the store door, her senses fixed on the two women walking toward the alley's entrance. Their footsteps were light and unhurried. From what she detected, these two girls posed no threat. Their cultivation realms were low, just ordinary people, most likely just passing through or looking for a place to shop. But something didn't sit right with her. There was a third presence trailing behind them. A man. The man wasn't walking casually. His figure was hidden by a mist-like presence that cloaked him, suppressing his spiritual chi and rendering his movements nearly imperceptible. He wasn't trying to hide physically, but his very presence was masked. If it weren't for her vein of shadow, Kurome wouldn't have noticed him at all. The concealment technique he was using should be very rare, sophisticated enough to fool even the most expert cultivators. His mastery over such an ability spoke volumes about his level of skill. Not quite above her level, but probably dangerously close. The fact that he was employing such a high-level concealment technique told Kurome that he was no ordinary person. He was a professional, and whatever his business was, it was important. The man was Siefian, a member of the Shrouded Blade, a secretive, elite assassin faction directly under the Emperor of the Shrouded Cloud Empire. Operating in the shadows, they were an invaluable tool for the Emperor, executing covert missions with deadly precision. They were tasked with eliminating threats to the throne, neutralizing political rivals, and ensuring the Empire's absolute power. Only the Emperor and a select few knew the full extent of the Shrouded Blade's activities, making them a feared and mysterious presence within the Empire. Most people didn't even know the faction existed, and those who did couldn't grasp the full extent of its operations. Members of the Shrouded Blade were highly skilled assassins, often at high cultivation realms, bound by loyalty to the Emperor. They operated as the Empire's unseen hand, leaving no trace of their actions. Today, Siefian was on another one of his many lone missions. His objective? To protect the individual he was silently following. To him, this mission felt like a vacation compared to the others he had completed. However, despite its seemingly simple nature, it was just as crucial, and his guard was at its peak. The city might have been secure, but danger could lurk in any corner. He had learned never to let his vigilance slip. As he tracked the two women, his thoughts drifted for a second. Lady Qingyi is out visiting hidden shops again. Siefian kept his distance, blending into the background as they walked toward a cat lying peacefully by the alley's entrance. The two women approached it slowly, and just as one of them reached down to pet the cat, Siefian's instincts flared. Without a second thought, he dashed forward, his legs carrying him as fast as they could. Something about this felt off. Wait, his mind screamed. A spirit beast. The cat was not what it appeared. The power emanating from it was unmistakable, and if his instincts were right, it was even stronger than him. An unsettling thought given his honed combat experience. Despite its might, Siefian felt no malicious intent from the spirit beast, but that didn't mean it was safe. His hand instinctively reached for his weapon, ready to act. Then, out of nowhere, a voice echoed inside his mind, freezing him in his tracks. "Human, what is your intention?" Siefian quickly understood that the voice wasn't coming from any human. It was the spirit beast. "There is no need for concern. My purpose is simply to ensure peace outside of the store. You are protecting these two, correct?" "Yes, Senior. I'm guarding them." Siefian's voice calm and respectful. Age had made him cautious, and he was not one to show arrogance, especially in front of such a powerful creature. "Then that's all good. If guarding is your sole task, everything's fine." Siefian couldn't help but blink in surprise as he turned his attention back to the two girls. The spirit beast was being petted by them now, a scene he never would have imagined. His sharp gaze caught the cat's calm expression as it relished the attention. Its tail swished slowly, a sign of contentment, as its eyes softened, and a contented purr rumbled in its throat. The two girls giggled in delight. "Goodbye, little cat," the first girl said sweetly. Her companion smiled and ruffled the cat's fur. "You're such a cute thing. Stay safe, okay?" Siefian watched, stunned. The spirit beast was enjoying being petted. He never thought he'd see such a thing. The two girls, apparently satisfied, stood up, brushing themselves off, and made their way into the store. As they entered, Siefian swiftly moved forward, positioning himself just in front of Kiron. He revealed himself fully, standing tall with a composed demeanor. Lifting his hand, he cupped his fist in front of his chest. "Greetings, Senior. May I enter the store?" His appearance was plain, nothing out of the ordinary. His long black hair was tied under a simple farmer's hat, and he wore a plain, unassuming black robe that looked as though he had just stepped out of the countryside. Hero knew this man was hiding his true identity. This wasn't his real face. She nonchalantly continued cleaning her paw, then suddenly stopped and looked into Siefian's eyes. "You may enter. But know this, do not cause trouble inside. Even someone of your level will not escape if you do." Siefian's brow furrowed slightly, intrigued and now more than ever curious about what lay beyond the glass doors. The store's exterior alone was enough to pique his interest. He couldn't sense anything beyond the glass walls, even with his heightened perception, and that warning from his spirit beast. Not even someone like him would escape? What sort of monster was inside that made the spirit beast be so strict? What was this place, and what was the purpose of the strange, powerful spirit beast guarding it? "Welcome," Cece greeted, already sizing up the new customers. The first woman was strikingly beautiful. Her dark violet eyes shimmered like precious gems, and her face was naturally flawless, with no makeup in sight. Her smooth, pale skin contrasted beautifully with her long, silky black hair, which flowed in gentle waves. She wore a simple dark blue robe. This was Yunlan Qingyi, one of the princesses of Shrouded Cloud Empire. Next to her was another woman, dressed in a similar robe, but in a lighter shade of lavender. While her beauty wasn't as striking as Yunlan Qingyi's, she still had a graceful charm. Her black hair was tied back neatly with a small decorative ornament. This was Li Mei, Yunlan Qingyi's loyal attendant and childhood friend. The two had come to the sovereign city once again, hoping to find something that could help Yunlan Qingyi's condition. Despite her noble status, Yunlan Qingyi was born with a rare constitution that blocked her spiritual roots from fully awakening. This rare condition left her trapped at the first stage of spirit awakening realm, unable to progress further in cultivation. While other royals sought power, fame, and strength, she remained secluded in the palace, constantly living under the shadow of ridicule and pity. Her presence in public was rare, and it only made her feel more isolated from the world around her. But today, like many times before, she was here, searching for a way to change her fate. Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei's eyes slightly widened as they took in the environment before them. The inside of the store was completely different from the dark alley outside. It was bright, clean, and full of light. The atmosphere felt peaceful, almost like a safe haven from the outside world. Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei also noticed a cool breeze smoothly brushing against their skin. It wasn't uncomfortable at all, and instead, it was quite refreshing. They exchanged a quick glance. Without a word, they both had the same thought. There must be an ice formation set up. Just for comfort? How extravagant! Formations like this are usually only found in palaces or the most high-end sex shops. And yet, here it was in a store tucked away inside a shadowy alley. Their thoughts were broken when their eyes landed on the young girl near the counter. MOCC. Is she the owner? They both wondered for a moment. But they quickly dismissed the thought. She looked too young. Surely not. Still, as etiquette demanded, they both gave a polite nod. Greetings. Greetings, Yunlan Qingyi said with a gentle smile. Might I ask if you're the owner of this establishment? MOCC shook her head lightly. I'm not the owner. I'm just the store crew. I'm the one watching the store right now. MOCC then pointed toward the corner. That's my boss, the owner of this store. Boss, Yunlan Qingyi repeated, a bit puzzled by the unfamiliar word. Li Mei leaned in slightly and whispered beside her. Princess, the word boss is another way to say someone is the head of the store, the one who owns and oversees it. Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei followed MOCC's finger and turned to look. There, seated in the corner, was a young man eating a bowl of noodles. He looked up mid-bite, his cheeks a little puffed from the mouthful of noodles he had just taken in. Some soup clung to the side of his mouth, and a noodle strand dangled from his chopsticks. He waved his free hand casually, not at all shocked by their beauty. Perhaps it was because of Yu Xuyin, who now came to the store often. Her beauty was just as stunning, so maybe he had gotten used to it? That's the owner. Both Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei were surprised. He looked nothing like what they had imagined. They expected some old, wise man in grand robes. Not a noodle-slurping youth who looked like he just rolled out of bed. Li Mei frowned slightly. How can he greet the princess in such a manner? But before Li Mei could speak, Yunlan Qingyi stepped forward and gave a polite bow. Greetings, esteemed store owner. Li Mei, though clearly unhappy, followed her princess's lead. If the princess offers her respect, what right do I have to refuse? Li Mei thought and gave a quick nod as well. Hao gave him a small nod in return and went right back to eating. A twitch formed in Li Mei's brow. She opened her mouth, ready to say something, but Yunlan Qingyi, who knew Li Mei all too well, gently took her hand and gave it a soft tug. Let's look around, Mei. Yunlan Qingyi said with a kind smile. Seeing her princess acting so calmly, Li Mei had no choice but to let it go. Since neither the crew nor the owner seemed interested in introducing them to any products, they would have to look around on their own. That, in itself, was unusual. In other stores, the workers would always greet them with enthusiasm, showing off the best items and offering all sorts of expensive treasures. But here, nothing. And worse, many of the shelves were empty. Li Mei frowned. Is this place struggling? They even have a formation just for air cooling, and yet so few products? Their first stop was a shelf filled with small, colorful cups. What are these? Yunlan Qingyi asked softly, lifting a cup with the words beef-flavored instant noodles written on it. Li Mei picked up another one beside her, scanning the strange packaging. I'm not sure either. They both stared at the cup. Their faces were calm, but their eyes were full of curiosity. Isn't this the one the store owner was eating? Yunlan Qingyi muttered as her eyes drifted toward the corner. Li Mei followed her line of sight. Hao was still sitting there, slurping up noodles like he hadn't a care in the world. Sure enough, the same kind of cup was in his hands. Yes, this seems to be the container for those noodles. They looked down and spotted the price tag of the instant noodles. 1 crystal. They both paused. 1 crystal for noodles in a cup. Yunlan Qingyi blinked, confused. Li Mei's brows furrowed slightly. That's the price of a meal from a high-grade pavilion. This isn't even a proper dining house. Isn't this a robbery? Should they report this to the city officials? Or maybe it was some mistake. Pre, Li Mei muttered, lowering her voice. Yunlan Qingyi, however, shook her head and smiled. Let's try first, Mei Mei. If it costs 1 crystal, then surely there must be something special about it. We shouldn't judge too quickly. That was how Yunlan Qingyi always was, open-minded, willing to give even the strangest things a fair chance. Li Mei, however, was thinking the exact opposite. In her mind, this was nothing more than an overpriced scam. Still, seeing her princess so interested, she kept her thoughts to herself. They brought the 2 cups to the counter and placed them down. 2 crystals. After they paid, MOCC gestured to a strange metal-looking device. To prepare the instant noodles, go to that artifact. It's called a water dispenser. Just lift the lid slightly, place the cup on the holder, and wait for it to pour the hot water. Once it's done, close the lid and grab a chopstick. You can take a seat in the corner while it cooks. It should be ready in about 3 minutes. Though the instructions were simple, they still looked at the cup suspiciously. That was it. They were paying a full crystal, and the store didn't even prepare for them. Still, a purchase was a purchase. After a quiet nod between them, they proceeded with the steps and carried their cups to the seating area, a few seats away from Hao. As they waited, Yunlan Qingyi leaned closer and whispered, "What do you think it will taste like, Mei Mei?" "I'm not sure, but I doubt it will be anything amazing," Li Mei whispered back. 3 minutes passed. Yunlan Qingyi, unable to hold back her curiosity any longer. "This should be ready now, right, Mei Mei?" "Yes, Yi," Li Mei answered with a nod, her eyes already on the cup in front of them. The 2 of them simultaneously opened their cups, and the instant they did, a rich, savory scent wafted up, something warm, slightly smoky, and deep. It was a mix of umami and something hearty, a blend of herbs and roasted meat, filling the air. The fragrance alone made their mouths water. They quickly composed themselves, but their hands trembled slightly as they held their chopsticks. "Who said it's not going to be delicious?" Li Mei, strict as ever, pushed down her own surprise X. "Wait, Yi. It could contain something dangerous, some kind of substance. That's why it's affecting us this way. I'll try it first, to be safe." Li Mei protective nature taking over. Yunlan Qingyi couldn't argue, even though she was desperate to taste it now. "Go ahead, Mei Mei. Please make it quick." Li Mei wiped the small bit of drool from the corner of her mouth, shaking her head in silent resignation. With a small sigh, she picked up a long, slippery strand of noodles, coated with the deep brown broth. She brought it to her lips, hesitated for a split second, and then took a bite. The moment the noodles hit her tongue, she froze, eyes wide. The savory taste exploded in her mouth. The broth was incredibly flavorful, the spices blending perfectly. It was unlike anything she'd ever eaten, far surpassing even the finest dishes prepared by the palace chefs or the most renowned pavilions. The flavor was so rich, so satisfying, it felt as though her senses were being awakened for the first time. She slurped the noodles down, almost in a trance, still staring in disbelief. How could something so simple, something prepared in such a rudimentary way, taste this incredible? It was like a food fit for immortals, yet it was served in a small cup with no ceremony. "How is it this good?" Yunlan Qingyi, noticing Li Mei's stunned expression, couldn't restrain herself any longer. "It's safe, right, Mei Mei? I'll eat now." Before Li Mei could even answer, Yunlan Qingyi had already scooped up a large bite of noodles and stuffed them in her mouth. "Hm, slurp. This is delicious, Mei Mei," Yunlan Qingyi exclaimed, completely forgetting her manners as she enjoyed the taste. "Your manner, Li Mei said, but even as she spoke, she too couldn't resist. Her chopsticks moved back to her cup, and she took a bite, almost without realizing it. The 2 sat there, their previous doubts long forgotten as they relished the unexpected but utterly heavenly meal. Before they knew it, their cups were empty. Not a single drop of broth remained. They blinked. "Why? Why does it feel like I've never eaten in my life?" Yunlan Qingyi murmured. Li Mei stared at hers with equal shock. "This can't be normal." They both looked up at each other, and immediately stiffened. You have soup on your nose. You've got a noodle strand stuck to your cheek, Mei Mei. They stared, then pointed, then blinked again. No, you first. No, you. A beat. Yinlan, Qingyi, and Lin Mei both burst into soft, uncontrollable laughter. The kind of giggle that bubbled up before they could stop it. Across the room, Hao and MOCC watched with squinting eyes. They're not entering the noodle trance? Hao thought. Wait, don't tell me. Could it be they also have the same special constitution as me? Hope sparked in his chest like a firework. He clenched his fist. Yes, yes, I'm not alone. But just as that hope bloomed, the giggles stopped, and like two puppets with their strings cut, Yinlan, Qingyi, and Li Mei slowly, eerily, stopped moving. Their backs straightened, eyes fluttered shut. Silence. Hao's face crumbled. Hao collapsed dramatically onto the table, face down. Not again. I thought I found my people. Meanwhile, deep within Yunlan, Qingyi's inner world, darkness. She floated in a vast, silent space, her body glowing gently like a lantern in the night. It was quiet, strangely comforting. No sounds, no thoughts, just the stillness of the void. But then, something changed. She could feel it now. Spiritual qi. Endless waves of it. It wasn't chaotic or wild like what she felt during cultivation practice. It was warm, gentle. It flowed toward her like a river of light, surrounding her body, soaking into her bones and meridians. Her breathing slowed. Her mind cleared. Then she noticed it, the wall. It wasn't something she could see, but she felt it. A strange barrier deep inside her. Cold. Heavy. Yinlan Qingyi had always known something was wrong with her body. Countless physicians described it as an exceedingly rare condition, one that had never been recorded in history. Cultivation techniques didn't work on her. Pills had no effect. Spiritual qi would enter her, then vanish like smoke. No progress. No change. Until now, that same spiritual qi, the kind that disappeared before, was staying inside her. Gathering. Building. Was it the noodles? That small cup of broth and noodles? It didn't make sense. But the warmth it gave her earlier was the same warmth flowing through her now. The barrier inside her cracked. Her body trembled. She gritted her teeth. There was pain. Her veins felt like they were stretching open, wide and raw. But she didn't cry out. She reached toward that wall, whatever it was, and pushed. Crack. A brilliant surge of light burst from her chest. Qi flooded in, spiraling through her once-blocked meridians. Yinlan Qingyi's body lifted higher in the void, as if weightless. The pain was gone, replaced by a rush of power she had never known. She opened her eyes, at least it felt like she did. The void sparkled. She could breathe the qi around her now. Her body drank it in like water. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. After about 30 minutes, both Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei slowly woke up. They sat there, blinking in silence, looking around as if unsure of what just happened. Then their eyes met. They stared at each other. Li Mei finally broke the silence. Princess, I think I've broken through. Because of the noodles. Even she didn't expect to say that. But she could feel it clearly. Her body felt lighter, her senses sharper. She had really advanced to the 4th stage of spirit awakening realm. Still, Li Mei didn't want to make the situation about herself. So she quickly turned to Yunlan Qingyi with worry in her eyes. Did the instant noodles help you too? Or was it still the same? Li Mei was anxious. Even though what just happened to her felt amazing, she couldn't smile if her best friend didn't get the same result. She sent her pleads skyward, as if the heavens were listening. Please let this help her too. She knew how much Yunlan Qingyi had suffered. Born to a great family, yes, but trapped in a body that couldn't absorb qi properly. Everyone had hope for her future, but as she grew up, none of it worked. No medicine, no treasures, no secret methods. And yet, Yunlan Qingyi had never given up. She stayed kind. She smiled. She waited, and she kept trying. She never got angry at others or acted spoiled. She just quietly hoped. Li Mei admired her for that. But deep inside, she also knew the truth. Even the best physicians and healing experts in the palace and in the empire said the same thing. There was no cure for her body. Only a miracle could change that. And maybe, just maybe, this strange cup of so-called instant noodles was that miracle. Then Li Mei saw it. A small tear fell from Yunlan Qingyi's eye. It dropped on her robe, and suddenly, the princess leaned forward and hugged Li Mei tightly. Li Mei didn't hesitate and hugged her back just as tightly. Yunlan Qingyi whispered, her voice shaking but full of warmth. Mei, I think I can finally cultivate again, like everyone else. It was quiet, but it felt loud in Li Mei's heart. She held her tighter. For the first time ever, Yunlan Qingyi could finally take her first real step on the path of cultivation. And she wasn't alone. Li Mei was with her, through all the years of helpless waiting, quiet tears, and false hope. And now, she'd be with her on this new path too. The two of them slowly pulled apart from the hug, their eyes still red from the emotions. Yunlan Qingyi wiped her cheek with her sleeve and gave a small smile. Mei, I have to test it again first. Her eyes sparkled with a long-lost excitement, something she hadn't felt in years. Li Mei blinked. You want to eat another cup? Yunlan Qingyi shook her head quickly. No, cultivate, just making sure it wasn't a fluke. Li Mei's lips twitched. She crossed her arms with a helpless sigh. Princess, don't sit too long, all right? I'll be fine, Yunlan Qingyi said, already lowering herself to the floor. With the seriousness of a grandmaster preparing for a life-or-death breakthrough, she straightened her back, folded her legs into a lotus position, and raised both palms like a little old monk. Her expression turned completely serious. It would have looked holy, if not for the single small strand of noodle stuck on her sleeve. Li Mei covered her mouth with her sleeve and turned away to hide her smile. Yunlan Qingyi, completely unaware, took a deep breath and closed her eyes. And then, she felt it. The spiritual qi in the air, it was moving. No, more than that. It was flowing toward her, not scattering, not repelled. It came willingly, like it had always belonged inside her. She could feel it soaking in her skin, traveling through her meridians slowly. Before, it was like trying to breathe with blocked lungs. Now it was like taking in cool, clean air after a storm. Her dantian, it wasn't resisting. It was absorbing. She could guide the qi into it without pain or backlash. For the first time in her life, it was working. Yunlan Qingyi opened her eyes. It's real. Li Mei, watching from the side, stepped forward and knelt down beside her. Congratulations, all your efforts. They finally paid off. You did it. You really did it. Yunlan Qingyi's lips stretched into the widest, brightest smile Li Mei had ever seen from her. Thank you, Mei. Li Mei helped Yunlan Qingyi up with both hands, making sure she didn't wobble. The two of them exchanged a look, no words needed. They both turned and started walking together toward the store owner. Hao was still sitting in the corner, drinking lime fizz. He glanced at Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei's direction just as they approached. He raised one eyebrow mid-sip. No bow, no greeting, just a single eyebrow. Li Mei stared blankly at Hao. This man is just drinking something right now? Does he even realize the magnitude of what just happened? Her face shifted somewhere between disbelief and deadpan, like she was trying to hold in 100 thoughts and failed. Did he really make those noodles? Or did he just find them lying around somewhere and decided to sell them in this tiny shop? Is this really the person who changed Yi's fate? Yunlan Qingyi stepped forward. Senior, she bowed, placing her hand over her chest. This humble one expresses sincere gratitude. I do not yet fully understand the nature of what you have given us, but because of it, I was able to touch cultivation again, something I once believed forever beyond my reach. She raised her head and gave Hao the kindest, most radiant smile. This debt shall not be forgotten. Li Mei followed suit with a composed step forward and a courteous incline of her head. I offer my deepest thanks as well, Senior, for helping Yi. Hao blinked at them. He casually tilted the can again, took another sip, and shrugged. You guys really don't have to thank me or anything. You bought the noodles. You paid crystals for it. They just did what they were supposed to do. Hao gave him a lazy smile. Pretty good deal, right? The two girls were left speechless. Is that all? He acts as though he sold a regular pot of tea, not noodles that defy the heavens. Unable to restrain herself any longer, Li Mei spoke again. Senior, pardon my manners, but are you truly the owner of this store? Yeah, I own this place. Hao replied plainly. Li Mei frowned slightly, watching his expression, his body, the way he spoke. But there was nothing fake in Hao's words. She couldn't sense even a hint of deception. Before she could ask more, Yunlan Qingyi suddenly laughed quietly and gently covered Li Mei's mouth with both hands, pulling her back a step. Mei, that's enough. Yunlan Qingyi turned back to Hao with a smile and gave a polite bow. Senior Hao, if it is not too bold, may I know your name? Hao. Just Hao. There was a quiet pause, then her smile softened. Senior Hao, thank you again. We'll definitely come back. With that, Yunlan Qingyi pulled Li Mei along, both of them stepping outside into the moonlight. As the door closed behind them, Li Mei mumbled behind her hand. But I still have questions. Mei, some mysteries are better left unsolved for now. Xie couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. He had been quietly observing the exchange between Yunlan Qingyi and the mysterious store owner, Hao, and was completely thrown off by the whole encounter. When he entered the store, he was greeted casually, but his attention was immediately drawn to the environment. The peaceful atmosphere inside didn't match the dark, dismal alley outside, a place where few would dare to step. His sharp senses kicked in as he scanned the space. He couldn't detect anything threatening, but something still felt off. He didn't dare lower his guard for several reasons. First, the warning from the spirit beast still echoed in his mind. Do not cause trouble inside. Even someone of your level won't escape if you do. Yet, despite the warning, he couldn't sense anything in the store above his realm. Still, the feeling of unease lingered, and his instincts told him to stay cautious. The second reason for his wariness was MOCC. The one who had greeted him was none other than the lost heir of the fallen Ashen cult curse. His faction, the Shrouded Blade, had little information about her anymore, except that she was somewhere in Sovereign City. Seeing her working here, in a place like this, was completely unexpected. MOCC was still young, and although she was no match for him in combat, her skills were far from ordinary. She came from the Ashen cult, a demonic faction known for their cunning and manipulative ways. Members of such cults weren't like normal warriors. They were trained in psychological warfare and deception, skilled in twisting situations to their advantage. It was something Xie had learned to be cautious of over the years. He could feel the weight of her presence, even though she barely moved. Her calm demeanor, her watchful eyes, everything about her screamed danger, even if it wasn't obvious to the untrained eye. Trying to push down his rising suspicion, Xie adjusted his stance, lowering his presence to its bare minimum. He moved slowly, pretending to be interested in the shelves of instant noodles, trying to blend in while keeping his gaze fixed on Yunlan Qingyi. This caused Hao and MOCC, who had also been observing Xie to think that there was something wrong with this man's head. They couldn't just outright kick him out of the store, though. After all, he was still a potential customer, even if he was acting strange. Xie continued observing when suddenly, the princess and her attendant entered an enlightenment state after eating the product called beef-flavored instant noodles. Enlightenment from a meal? What in the heavens was going on? He couldn't even begin to understand it, but there was no mistaking it. He could tell by the way they were acting. Even more, Xie could feel the spiritual qi around them, and when he carefully used his own spiritual sense to check, the feeling didn't betray him. It was all real. Then it got even crazier. After their enlightenment, something even more absurd happened. The princess, who had a unique constitution that made it impossible for her to cultivate, was now able to do so again. Xie saw it with his own eyes. He felt like he was in an illusion. How could this be? The best physicians in the land had given up on curing the princess. Her condition was deemed impossible to fix with the medical knowledge of this era. The emperor had called upon experts from across the cities, but none could help her. But here she was, cured in mere minutes by a noodle meal. And the one who had made it possible was Hao. The very same man who seemed so ordinary, yet Siafian had sensed nothing extraordinary from him. That's when it clicked. That's why Siafian didn't feel anything above him. It wasn't because there was nothing stronger. It was because his own realm or perception wasn't enough to grasp the level of Hao's power. This man must be an immortal from the upper realms, or perhaps something even beyond that. How could someone so powerful look so normal? Siafian's sharp instincts told him that Hao was hiding everything, controlling his presence so perfectly that even someone like him couldn't detect a thing. What a terrifying monster! If Hao could hear Siafian's thoughts, he'd probably be like, "What is bro cooking? It's definitely burnt." "What do you mean, monster? I'm just a regular mortal. You're over here doing mental gymnastics for no reason." Back in the present, Siafian quickly approached Hao, his posture straight and respectful. "Greetings, senior." Hao glanced at him, taking in the man's serious expression. But instead of responding with words, Hao simply stared. He didn't speak right away. His thoughts were still on how odd this old man was. He couldn't quite figure out what was going on with him, but it seemed like Siafian had no intention of stirring a problem. After a long, awkward pause, Siafian gave a brief bow. "Thank you for the service, Senior Hao. I'll take my leave for now." As Siafian walked towards the exit, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this mysterious store. But duty called. The princess's safety was his priority. "I'll come back later." As he stepped outside, Hao shook his head. "Oh, crazy old man. Just gonna leave after calling me senior? You should have at least bought something before you left." Well, that was only in Hao's thoughts. If he really shouted that out, the system would probably spank him 1,000 times. Or worse, he could get zapped out. And who wants that kind of trouble, right? Who knows what the system might do to punish him? After all, this is the same system that gave him a first task, where failing meant losing the ability to have descendants. How brutal is that? The night was peaceful. The last customers of the day were Yunlan Qingyi and Li Mei. As the final hour passed, Hao stretched, feeling the fatigue settle in. It had been a productive day, to say the least. "Little Cece," Hao called. "Go fetch Kirom. It's time to close up." Cece nodded and went outside. The store's lights flickered off. Silence took over the shop as the members of Dimensional Convenience Store made their way upstairs. Meanwhile, within the Imperial Palace, chaos was already brewing. News of the youngest princess Yunlan Qingyi's sudden ability to cultivate again spread like wildfire, a miracle no one thought possible due to her unique constitution. Yunlan Qingyi revealed to her mother that she could now cultivate. Yunlan Qiyue's face turned pale with shock. Her hand shook as she pulled her daughter into a tight hug. Tears filled her eyes. She had lost all hope, but now her daughter could cultivate once more. With a heart full of disbelief and joy, Yunlan Qiyue quickly wiped away her tears. She didn't waste any time. Taking her daughter, they rushed straight to the emperor. Emperor Yunlan Haorong already knew about it, thanks to Siafian's report. But even though he trusted the shrouded blades more than his own relatives, there was still a hint of doubt lingering in his heart. How could something as simple as noodles heal his daughter's condition? But hearing it directly from his daughter made him emotional. A lump formed in the emperor's throat as he struggled to contain his emotions. After all, the pill concocted by a grandmaster alchemist, along with the efforts of the best physicians in the empire, had failed to help her. But hearing it directly from his daughter made him emotional. For years, they had searched for a cure. The best physicians had all failed. Now in just a day, it had all changed. The palace was in an uproar. The emperor had called for all the physicians, cultivators, and experts within the land. They needed to verify whether Yunlan Qingyi's condition had truly improved. Was it a lasting change, or just temporary? Within an hour, the palace was filled with experts from all fields. They gathered around Yunlan Qingyi, carefully inspecting her. Every single one of them was stunned by what they found. The obstruction that had been blocking her cultivation for years was completely gone. It was as if it had never existed at all. There was no trace left, no residual qi, no signs of the condition that had once held her back. Even the most experienced cultivators couldn't believe their eyes. This was unheard of. Yinlan Qingyi stood proudly as she demonstrated that she could indeed cultivate again. There was no need to prove it, though. The experts had already confirmed it with their own spiritual senses. The emperor, overjoyed, could hardly suppress his excitement. He was practically bursting with pride. "My daughter can cultivate again," Emperor Yunlong Haorong exclaimed, grinning from ear to ear. He quickly began to plan a grand celebration in his mind, a banquet to honor the incredible event. And, of course, he would personally invite the one who had healed his daughter, the benefactor responsible for this miracle. As a father, this moment meant the world to him. It wasn't just a victory for his daughter, but for him too. His heart swelled with happiness, and he couldn't wait to express his gratitude to the one who had restored his daughter's future. Meanwhile, Hao was fast asleep in his room, completely unaware of the commotion unfolding outside. Even if he had known, he wouldn't have cared. He still didn't have permission to leave the store. The morning arrived as usual. Customers began trickling in, one by one. Lin Yijuan, Hua Feishua, Yu Shuyan, and Xiao Yangfeng. Hao had expected that the elders would be among the loyal customers soon enough, but it seemed he was wrong. Technically, they had already become loyal customers, thoroughly captured by the products, but their circumstances prevented them from visiting the store just yet. The two elders, Tang Sheng and Feng Yuhan, were busy. They were on their way back to their sect after being dragged into the palace to check Yunlan Qingyi's condition. The sect masters of the Drifting Sword sect and Snow Petal sect, old friends of the emperor, had summoned them to help with the matter. And of course, because Tang Sheng and Feng Yuhan were best friends of the sect masters, they too were swept into the royal affair. Talk about terrible timing to be a friend. They were stuck in the palace, desperately wanting to try the instant noodles again. That heavenly taste. If it weren't for the royal business, they'd have been here the moment the store opened. The cravings were unbearable, but it wasn't just the elders. The sect masters were also eager to taste the products they'd heard so much about from the reports. They were flying on their swords as fast as they could, eager to return to their sects, handle some urgent matters, and then rush over to Hao's store. Back in the store, Hao quickly noticed that Lin Yijuan, who normally appeared calm, was in an out-of-character bright and cheerful mood. Did something happen yesterday? Lin Yijuan blinked, a little confused by the question. What would the boss be referring to? But then it hit him. It must be about his fishing trip yesterday. After all, he had used the cola and lime fizz combo to fish in the lake, and it was a huge success. He caught more fish than he could count, and there were even some onlookers who stared at him with envy, wondering how he managed such a haul. Lin Yijuan felt like he was on top of the world. Should he tell Hao the truth? Would he get scolded for wasting such a powerful effect on fishing? Lin Yijuan wasn't sure, but his carefree nature quickly took over. Why not just go with the flow? He decided to share it all. The boss probably wouldn't mind. After all, Hao himself had been pretending to be a regular mortal, right? He might even be glad to hear about his experience. Lin Yijuan leaned back, grinning. So, boss, I used the cola and lime fizz drink combo to fish yesterday, and it worked like a charm. Caught a ton of fish. The people watching me were practically green with envy. It was hilarious. The moment he finished speaking, the entire store went silent. Everyone turned to look at Lin Yijuan, eyes wide in disbelief. Xiao Yangfeng, who had always considered himself on being the one who knew Lin Yijuan best as his sworn brother, blinked twice. Wait, what? His jaw almost hitting the floor. You used cola and lime fizz on fishing. Everyone else in the store had the same reaction, except for Hao. It was the same drink that could enhance your training or cultivation, and this guy had used it on something as mundane as fishing. What a waste. Is this little brat really in his right mind? People would sacrifice everything just to get their hands on cola and lime fizz if they knew its power. And here Lin Yijuan is using it to outdo some fishermen. They stared, utterly dumbfounded. They had often thought Lin Yijuan had a strange way of thinking, but now, they were starting to wonder if he even had all his gears turning. Hao let out a laugh as he gave Lin Yijuan a few friendly taps on the shoulder. Way to go, Yijuan. Everyone in the store turned to look at Hao. They went quiet. Had the boss been corrupted too? Was Lin Yijuan's weirdness contagious? Even Hua Feishue's mouth twitched. Boss Hao, not you too. But Hao didn't mind their reactions. His eyes sparkled with amusement. This was the first time. This was different. He had read thousands of cultivation novels, yet not once had he seen something like this. This wasn't a plot. This was madness. But now he had witnessed it with his own eyes. A living, breathing example of nonsense and boldness combined. Lin Yijuan scratched the back of his head, a little embarrassed, but more proud than anything. As expected, the boss was on a complete different wavelength. Hao didn't think like other cultivators. He wasn't caged by the rigid ideas of the cultivation world. He had probably seen through everything and reached enlightenment on another path, one that accepted Lin Yijuan's fishing greatness. Maybe he wasn't misunderstood after all. Boss. Lin Yijuan grinned, fists clenched with motivation. I'll do even better next time. He didn't know what he would do next. Fishing wasn't bad, but maybe there were other things he could do to make better use of the cola and lime fizz. Perhaps something more creative? Everyone rolled their eyes. They all went back to eating and chatting. 2 rounds of breakthroughs slipped by. Lin Yijuan's group chatted and laughed. The door suddenly creaked open. 3 figures stepped inside, immediately catching the attention of everyone in the room. In the center stood a man with a slightly long black beard, his face grumpy and stern. His hair was tied up in a top knot, and he wore a plain red robe. The only thing that really stood out about him was his dark violet eyes. To his right was a man with messy, slightly longer black hair, secured back with a black band. His face was as generic as a background NPC, yet there was something about his presence that made him seem oddly out of place. He was dressed in a plain gray robe. On the left of the bearded man was an old face Hao recognized. It was CF Fian from yesterday, still wearing the same clothes. But the most eye-catching part, all 3 of them had farmer hats perched neatly on their heads. Wait a second, are they aura farming? Their drip was simple, but somehow, just standing there, they gave off an unexplainable pressure. +5 aura points just from the hat? Welcome. Hao greeted casually. Then, out of nowhere, the bearded man in the middle raised a hand and swiped across his face. A faint ripple appeared. In an instant, the grumpy-looking man vanished, replaced by a refined, sharp-featured older gentleman. Long eyebrows, a straight nose, a dignified jawline. His hair didn't change, but now he looked like someone who could sit on a dragon throne. Everyone in Lin Yijuan's group froze. This face, they knew it. They could not know it. Hua Feishue pointed with trembling fingers. Is that the emperor? Yes, it was really him. Yunlan Haorong, the storm behind the clouds. The current ruler of the Shrouded Cloud Empire. What was he doing in this store? Was this some kind of impersonator? But who would dare impersonate the emperor? That was a shortcut to losing one's head. A dozen thoughts raced through everyone's mind. Suspicion, fear, confusion, even a little awe. Only Hao remained calm, his expression unchanged, though both eyebrows had risen slightly. Oh, right then, the emperor cupped his fists and bowed deeply. I greet the esteemed master of the store. CF Fian and the other man beside him immediately followed suit, bowing respectfully. Emperor Yunlan Haorong raised his head and looked straight into Hao's eyes. His gaze was deep, sharp, and heavy, like a mountain pressing down. But Hao didn't flinch. He raised his own brow slightly higher and stared back. Is this an I showdown now? Hao narrowed his gaze. He wasn't losing this contest. The store filled with invisible sparks. A staring duel between a presumed-to-be immortal storekeeper and the emperor himself. The old man confusedly blinked. Emperor Yunlan Haorong didn't know what was going on. He simply felt the store owner's eyes were strangely intense. Is there a stain on my face? Meanwhile, Hao was already celebrating inside. That's right. You blinked. First blood goes to me. Victory! He calmly nodded to himself. Hiding the smugness tried to crawl up his face. The emperor took a step forward and cupped his fists respectfully once again. This one's name is Haorong. May I ask for Senior's name? Just Hao. You can call me Hao. The emperor nodded solemnly. All right, Senior Hao. You may call me Haorong. Lin Yijuan's group was already frozen. Their jaws dropped further when the emperor lowered his head again. Senior Hao, this one did not come today on behalf of a sect or empire, but as a father. I came here to thank you for saving my daughter. He bowed deeply. A sudden image flashed in his mind. The beautiful woman from yesterday, the one who came with another girl and had the same deep violet eyes as this old man. Don't tell me that girl was Haorong's daughter. Hao quickly waved his hand. No, that's too much. I didn't do anything that big. I didn't save anyone. She bought instant noodles, paid for it, ate it, that's all. He scratched his forehead. She's the one who chose to come here. She's the one who made the effort to change. If anything, your daughter's the one who helped herself. Inside, Hao had no clue what he was even yapping about. What am I saying? Am I making sense? But it seemed to work. Yunlin Haorong straightened up and smiled. Senior Hao is too humble. Even if you didn't intend to help, you still gave her the chance. Without that noodles, she would still be trapped by her condition. Giving her that opportunity meant giving her a new life. For that, this one is truly grateful. This kindness is something I will never forget. Hao squinted a few times. How did it turn out like this? He wasn't confused, but it was like getting caught in a storm without knowing where the wind came from. I wasn't even the one on the counter that night. That was little Cece. And I didn't make that cup of instant noodles either. It came straight from his system. A strange feeling pressed down on him. A bit heavy, not uncomfortable, but unexpected. He was glad the noodles helped that girl. Really, but this level of gratitude felt too much. Still, Hao could understand it. A father's heart would always be like that. If he ever had a daughter, and she had suffered through something painful, only to finally smile again because of someone else, he'd probably bow even lower. He let out a small breath, then gave a faint smile. In the end, Hao decided to accept it. All right, then, I'll accept your thanks, Haorong. He extended his hand forward. There was a beat of silence. Emperor Yunlin Haorong's eyes widened, but then softened. He reached out, grasping Hao's hand with both of his. Their handshake was firm. No more bows. No more words. Just a meeting of hands between two men who, in their own ways, understood each other. In that moment, there was no emperor or store owner, just a father and someone who unknowingly helped. In the corner, Lin Yijuan's group had already started whispering to each other through mental transmission. Only Boss Hao could do this. Hua Feishue almost exploded, making the emperor bow not once, but many times. Ah, is this what they call legendary face power? This explains why our master and sect master left for the palace last night. Yu Shuiyan replied. Xiao Yinfeng's brows shot up. So it really was the princess? I did hear some rumors at the training grounds. A few disciples were saying the youngest princess could cultivate again. Fire lit up in his eyes. She must have broken through. I knew something big happened. Then it must be the instant noodles that helped her. Hua Feishue added, if it can send us into enlightenment, it must have done something to change the princess' constitution too. She placed her hands on her hips, proud of her deduction. Boss Hao's product is really heaven-defying. Yu Shuiyan gave a tiny nod. Even she agreed this time. All three turned to Lin Yijuan. But Lin Yijuan was staring at them like they were speaking in a different language. He opened his mouth and closed it again. Usually, Lin Yijuan was the one who had more information. He would always explain things and act like he knew all the secrets. But not today, because yesterday, he had spent the entire day by fishing with full focus. What princess? What palace? Lin Yijuan's face twitched. He looked similar to a child who had accidentally walked into the wrong classroom. Hao and Yunlin Haorong let go of their handshake. The emperor took a step back and spoke once more. This one has a small request. There will be a banquet held at the palace in 3 days. It is not just to celebrate my daughter's recovery, but also to offer proper thanks. Senior Hao must attend. This one hopes to show his gratitude in a proper way. A banquet without the honored guest would only be half a celebration. Hao smiled awkwardly. He really wanted to say yes, but he couldn't leave the store. Couldn't, not even for a second. He glanced to the side, mentally shouting inwardly. System, is it possible? Just this once. Please, for her daughter, and this loving father. Don't you have a heart? This is a once-in-a-lifetime banquet. There will be food, wine, royal chefs, crystals maybe, overflowing with questionable sincerity. No host. Complete more missions. Once you become a cultivator, you may leave the store. Stop trying to emotionally manipulate me. House stood frozen. He tilted his head back. His soul let out a silent, pained cry. Yeah. He didn't even try to argue anymore. The system was as cold as a blade. No negotiations. No compromise. He let out a breath and turned back to Yunlan Haorong. I would love to go, but I'm afraid I'm not able to leave this place just yet. He gave a small bow. Your daughter's health is worth celebrating. I'll be cheering from here. Emperor Yunlan Haorong paused, then gave a slow, understanding nod. Since the senior had already given his reason, there was no need to press further. This one understands. Hao smiled lightly. However, if your daughter wants more noodles, she's always welcome. Of course, she still has to pay. Ha 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 ha. Emperor Yunlan Haorong let out a loud laugh that echoed inside the store. Even the two men beside him blinked in surprise. It had been a long time since they'd seen the emperor laugh like this. Not a polite chuckle or a rare smile. This was a full laugh from the heart. The man stroked his beard and looked at Hao with shining eyes. Senior, Hao truly has the bearing of a true store owner. Suddenly, the door swung open, and 4 figures stepped inside, interrupting the moment. Hao immediately recognized 2 of them, Elder Tang Sheng and Elder Feng Yuan. But the other 2? He had no idea who they were. Just as he was about to greet the 4, Hua Feishue and Xiao Lianfeng reacted in unison, their eyes widening in disbelief. Sect Master! They had expected their masters to come, but not the sect masters themselves. The man among the 2 appeared to be in his teens, with long, flowing silver-gray hair streaked with green highlights, tied back in a simple low ponytail. His jade-green eyes were sharp and piercing. A few strands of hair fell loosely around his handsome face. He wore a simple black robe. This was Jiang Xianwei, the sect master of Drifting Sword Sect. Despite his youthful appearance, this man was already an old fart. The woman beside him was entirely different. She wore a blank white mask that concealed even her eyes. Her flowing light blue hair cascaded down her back like a frozen waterfall, and her simple white robe only added to her ethereal aura. This was Bing Xian, the sect master of Snow Petal Sect. How easily picked up on the shock in Hua Feishue and Xiao Lianfeng's words. So these 2 are the sect masters? That explains everything. These 2 were big shots, and just like the man beside the emperor, their arrival triggered a notification from the system. Both of them were potential candidates to be recruited as store guardians. That could only mean one thing. They were cultivators who had reached the heavenly emperor realm or beyond. As Hao was processing all this, Sect Master Jiang Xianwei's eyes locked on the emperor, and a grin broke across his face. Brother Haorong? Here of all places. I didn't expect to meet you here. Emperor Yunlan Haorong erupted in laughter, unmistakably in high spirits, as he responded. Brother Xianwei, you're too much. What a coincidence. I had no idea we'd meet again so soon. It's fate, I suppose. Their laughter filled the room as they traded knowing stares. It was obvious that they shared a close bond. Well, Brother Haorong, what brings you here today? I doubt you just happened to stroll into this store for no reason. The emperor casually waved a hand, clearly unbothered by the teasing. Honestly, I came because of my daughter. Sect Master Jiang Xianwei's eyes flashed with understanding. Ah, I see. Indeed, Brother Xianwei, this store is the one that helped my daughter. I'm here to thank the store owner personally. Elder Tang Sheng and Elder Feng Yuan exchanged glances, their expressions suddenly enlightened. So, it was the storekeeper, Elder Tang Sheng murmured. No wonder. Elder Feng Yuan nodded. Right? A condition thought to be incurable, suddenly vanishing like that. Their minds quickly connected the dots. Was it the instant noodles that had caused this? It seemed the most plausible answer. Only the immortal storekeeper could have done something such as this, Elder Tang Sheng concluded. The 2 elders began transmitting the information mentally to their sect masters. Neither Jiang Xianwei nor Bing Xian showed any outward change, but internally, both were growing more and more intrigued by the store and, especially, its owner, Hao. Despite Hao's mortal appearance, there was something different about him. Even with their powerful spiritual senses, they couldn't detect any spiritual qi in his body. It was a mystery. What about you, Brother Xianwei? What brings you to this place? To think you'd even bring one of your elders along. Sect Master Jiang Xianwei smiled. Brother Sheng mentioned this store to me, Brother Haorong. He spoke of noodles. They're truly out of this world. We're here to try them today. Before the emperor could respond, Jiang Xianwei quickly interjected, not giving him a chance to ask more questions. How about you join me, Brother Haorong? You must try them with me. The emperor raised an eyebrow. His curiosity piqued, especially since these miraculous noodles had played a role in his daughter's recovery. You're right, Brother Xianwei. Emperor Yunlan Haorong said with a nod. Let's try it together. Elder Tang Sheng shot a glance at Lin Yijuan and Xiao Lianfeng, silently signaling them to take charge and guide the group. But before either of them could respond, Sect Master Jiang Xianwei immediately noticed the look and laughed. Brother Sheng, is that how you abuse your elder status? Ordering the youngsters around like that? Elder Tang Sheng's face twitched, clearly caught off guard, but he quickly recovered. I'm just trying to make sure they're useful, he muttered, but Jiang Xianwei was not done. Let the youngsters enjoy their time. How about you lead us, Brother Sheng? After all, you've been here before. Elder Tang Sheng's face turned slightly red at the playful jab, but with the Emperor and Sect Master Bing Xian both looking at him, he couldn't refuse. He gave a short sigh. Fine. I'll lead the way then. Elder Tang Sheng led the group toward the shelves where the instant noodles were displayed, while Lin Yijuan and Xiao Lianfeng struggled to hold back their laughter. Their cheeks puffed, eyes closed, and small smiles curled at their lips, looking like they were about to burst out. The three big shots stood in front of the shelf, eyes locked on the colorful containers of instant noodles. None of them had seen such packaging before. It doesn't look like anything from our continent. Emperor Yunlan Haorong muttered. It might have come from the upper realm, Bing Xian said, or another continent. Jiang Xianwei added. Despite their status, none of them hesitated to pay. 1 crystal for 1 cup was a spare change for them. The emperor even waved his hand. I'll pay for everyone. Consider it a small treat. In total, they took 7 beef-flavored and 7 chicken-flavored instant noodles. 14 crystals, easily paid. Elder Tang Sheng showed them the process of cooking the noodles using the water dispenser, just like how the others had done before. They sat down to eat. Soon, the room was filled with the fragrant aroma of the noodles. No words were exchanged at first. The moment they tasted it, every single one of them fell silent. Even trying to act composed, their expressions betrayed them. This wasn't just good. It was absurdly great. Even as top cultivators, they could not deny it. They would willingly eat this every day, even though they didn't need to. And it wasn't just the taste. The pure spiritual qi surged through their bodies, nourishing every part of them, from flesh to bone, from meridians to soul. By the time they finished, there was no doubt in their minds. This instant noodle wasn't something that should exist in this realm. Sect Master Jiang Xianwei leaned back. He turned to Bing Xian. Sister Bing, you felt it too, right? I swear, 10 of these, and I'm breaking through to enlightenment. Sect Master Bing Xian gave a nod. It's ridiculous, though even I can't refute it. Jiang Xianwei looked at the cup. I never expected it to have any effect at our realm, yet it clearly does. This might be the key we've been searching for to ascend. On the Emperor's side, Yunlan Haorong quietly set down his empty cup, his expression solemn. Now he understood. So that was how his daughter overcame her condition. Not through pills, not through secret techniques, but really from eating noodles? Noodles that could grant enlightenment? In a cultivation world where such opportunities were hidden in forbidden ruins, ancient tombs, and heavenly trials. Where could you find something like this? He chuckled to himself. No, you wouldn't find it there. You'd find it in a dark alley, hidden inside a small store. They moved on to the next round, another cup of instant noodles, this time the chicken-flavored. Their amazement was just as strong as before. Once they finished, the temptation to buy more was clear. But they all knew the rules, except for the Emperor's group. Rule number 1. Daily limits are absolute. Each customer may purchase only one of each product per day. Greed is not tolerated. The Emperor suggested paying however much Hao wanted, but Hao simply shook his head, denying the offer. The rule is the rule. No exceptions. Lin Yiju and grinned. Boss really sticks to his word. Now, there's an Emperor right in front of him, and he still doesn't back down. That's the kind of boss he is, treats all customers the same, no matter their status. Guess that's what sets him apart from the rest of us. No one can sway him, not even an Emperor. He controls his own rules and doesn't bend them for anyone, no matter how high their title is. There was no more discussion on the matter. The Emperor understood Hao's principles and accepted it. As a compromise, everyone bought 1 cola and 1 lime fizz to satisfy their cravings before going their separate ways. Meanwhile, Hao stood at the counter, checking the details of the potential store guardians. Of course, he wasn't going to recruit any of them. They were all already part of some group. The 2 sect masters were out of the question. They couldn't possibly leave their sects to guard a store, could they? As for the other one, Zhao Huan, Hao guessed he might be a secret bodyguard of the Emperor. Loyal to the Emperor, he would also be out of the running. Name, Bing Xian. Age, 240. Cultivation, 4th stage of Heavenly Emperor Realm. Name, Jiang Xianwei. Age, 246. Cultivation, 7th stage of Heavenly Emperor Realm. Name, Zhao Huan. Age, 274. Cultivation, 5th stage of Heavenly Emperor Realm. Hao had expected that the strongest would be the mysterious man beside the Emperor, or perhaps the masked sect master. But it was Jiang Xianwei, the one who appearance of a teenager. Did they even know how strong he was? Or was Jiang Xianwei just that good at pretending? And to think he was not even much older than Bing Xian. Yet, his cultivation was light years ahead. This guy might even be stronger than Kiro. The day passed by quickly, and soon another one arrived. The same customers from yesterday were back again today. But this time, the Emperor brought his daughter, Yunlan Qingyi, along to thank Hao once more. Not that he just wanted an excuse to come back and taste the instant noodles again, or buy more drinks, right? Days flew by, and eventually, the grand banquet for Princess Yunlan Qingyi's recovery arrived. It was one of the largest events ever held in the sovereign city. The Emperor had spared no expense. Even the common citizens were given food, all in celebration of the princess's health. It was a grand affair, a monumental moment for the people. For Hao, though, it was just another day of selling in the store. Same routine, same customers, and the same quiet life in his little corner of the world. While the city celebrated, Hao took a moment to check his progress on the system task. There were still more products to be sold before the task could be finished. As for the spicy version of the instant noodles, it had been warmly welcomed to the store. The time it landed in the hands of the cultivators, their reactions were nothing short of entertaining. The fiery flavor hit them with an intense heat, making some pause, while others immediately reached for more. Those used to enduring pain grinned as they swallowed, the spice adding a thrilling kick to their meal. The noodles quickly became a favorite, especially among the younger crowd, who enjoyed the challenge of the heat. However, the older cultivators weren't so impressed. They preferred the original, familiar taste, arguing that the spice only masked the true flavor. The debate quickly grew into a spirited discussion between the generations. Was the spicy version a new challenge to savor, or did the classics still reign supreme? For now, a truce was reached, with both sides agreeing that each version had its place. But the spicy instant noodles had certainly made their mark, sparking lively conversation and leaving a lasting impression. Of course, Hao was a fan, even if the only mythical effect he experienced was the burning hell that awaited him the next time he visited the restroom. The days passed, and the regular customers continued to visit, but no new ones showed up. Hao, Qirome, and MOCC remained busy with their daily jobs. Life moved at a steady pace, just the regular cycle of selling and restocking. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, Hao received a notification from the system. He immediately checked it. The main task had been completed, and so had the first side task. How claim the reward? New products would be arriving soon. Peach oolong tea and original salted potato chips. This was entirely new to the store, and Hal couldn't help but feel a spark of excitement. As for the last task, well, he still hadn't found a potential store guardian to recruit. But that was for another day. Hal had a tight sleep, the kind where he was half awake, half dreaming of new products. He woke up early, rushing downstairs. The new cartons had arrived. He jumped into unboxing mode. Hal tore open the first box, and there they were, bags of original salted potato chips. The bags were pristine white, with potato chips boldly printed at the top. Just below it, in smaller letters, was original salted. Towards the center, near the lower part of the bag, an illustration of thin, perfectly fried potato slices caught the eye. They were golden brown and crisp to perfection, each slice delicate and airy. On the lower half of the bag, an illustration depicted thin, perfectly fried potato slices, golden brown and crisp to perfection. Each slice appeared delicate and airy, with a light dusting of salt that shimmered enticingly. The bag crinkled in Hal's hand as he gave a slight shake. Crunch! Something whispered in the back of his mind. The urge to tear the bag open, to indulge in the crispy, salty goodness inside. One bite won't hurt. You've waited long enough. Let's check the oolong tea first. Hal resisted, pushing the temptation aside. He moved over to the other box and opened it. Inside, the cans of peach oolong tea were neatly stacked. Just like the cola and lime fizz cans, they were the same size and dimensions, but the design was completely different. The can was a soft pastel pink, almost like the color of a light sunset. The words peach oolong tea were printed in bold, black letters across the center. Below the text, an illustration of a ripe peach graced the can, its vibrant orange hue standing out against the soft pink backdrop. Next to it, a half peach was depicted, its white, juicy interior visible, with a delicate leaf resting beside it, completing the refreshing design. Hal picked up one can of peach oolong tea, rotating it. Never had this on Earth. But hey, looks like it's going to be pretty refreshing. The lingering burn of the spicy noodles from yesterday made his throat feel dry. He was thirsty, and this could be just what he needed. Without waiting any longer, he cracked the can open. A faint hiss escaped, but unlike the fizzy drinks he was used to, this one wasn't carbonated. The smoothness of it made him feel relaxed, like a gentle breeze on a hot day. Hal brought the can to his nose first, inhaling deeply. The delicate fragrance of peach and something floral filled his senses, not too strong, but enough to make him look forward to that first sip. He raised the can to his lips and took a drink. The taste hit him right away. It was a perfect balance between sweet and floral, but not overpowering. The peach flavor wasn't the overly sugary kind he had expected. Instead, it was subtle, almost like the fresh, natural taste of peach without that heavy sweetness. The bitterness of the oolong tea blended perfectly with the peach essence, creating a smooth, calming sensation. Hal squinted at the can design. Could it be the white peach that makes it less sweet? I've only ever had yellow peaches back on Earth. Maybe that's why this one's not as sugary. He took another sip, feeling the cool liquid slide down. The heat from the spicy noodles was long gone, replaced by the refreshing chill of the tea. This is good, Hal said with a satisfied smile. Not too sweet. Just right. If all peach oolong tea tastes like this, I'm in. I could get used to this. In fact, this could be his new substitute for the two sugary soft drinks he used to rely on. Forget cola and lime fizz. This was the real deal now. Setting the can aside, Hal reached for a bag of original salted potato chips. Chips for breakfast? Who cares? He was the store owner. His thoughts shifted briefly to his parents. Would definitely lecture him if they saw him eating chips at this hour. But what could they do? They weren't here, so he could do whatever he wanted. With a grin, Hal grabbed both sides of the chip bag and pulled. Classic tier. Pop! The sudden force sent a few chips jumping near the top, shaking the bag. Shit! Hal flinched, clutching the bag tighter. Almost shared my chips with the floor. He peered inside. Golden, thin slices filled the bag, curled slightly at the edges like they were posing. Each one looked almost identical. Wait, they all look the same. Are these all seasoned perfectly balanced, or what? Indeed, host. The potato chips are evenly seasoned using a unique blend of salts. Different salts? How blinked. Isn't original salted supposed to use just one kind? He narrowed his eyes at the chips. System, this isn't going to be so salty it turns my tongue into a dried fish, right? No, host. The chip uses 3 compatible salts: coral salt, starflame salt, and frost peak salt. Each one brings a distinct flavor, but they do not overwhelm. Instead, they complement each other, creating a layered taste that stays balanced from start to finish. Hal had absolutely no idea what those salts were, but just from the names alone, they clearly weren't from Earth. Starflame salt? That sounded more like treasure from a dungeon than something you'd see on a grocery shelf. He picked up a chip and popped it into his mouth. Crunch. The first bite hit with a rich, savory taste, the kind that made his mouth relax without thinking. A gentle umami wave rolled over, smooth and buttery from the potato. Then came a light prickling on his tongue. Not spicy, but like a warm wake-up call. Finally, a refreshing coolness swept over his mouth, clean and crisp, as if snow had dusted his taste buds. Hal blinked. That's actually insane. From one single chip, he experienced 3 shifts in flavor. It caught him off guard in the best way. He grabbed another. System, what kind of potato did you guys use for this? Starlight root potato, host. It has pale blue skin and a soft golden interior. It only grows at night in the celestial vein highlands. The potato absorbs oil blends easily without becoming soggy or greasy. With a fine, porous structure, the flesh allows the salt blend to stick evenly across the surface, ensuring a consistent flavor without clumping or overpowering the taste. Starlight root, huh? That explains everything, I guess. The potato must be doing all the heavy lifting, keeping the salts, oil, and taste in perfect sync. It's what makes the whole thing work. He crunched again, letting the flavor flow hit him a second time. The chips disappeared faster than he expected. He thought his stomach might complain. After all, this was technically his breakfast. But strangely, he felt fine. No heaviness, no weird greasy aftertaste. And with the peach oolong tea washing it all down, it actually felt, right? A nice combo. Crunch, crunch, sip. The balance between salty and refreshing was just too good. Hal was already finishing the last few chips. He looked into the bag and saw nothing but crumbs. Smiling, Hal held the bag from both ends and gave it a shake. Sha sha sha. Then he gave it a light squeeze. Pah! The crushed bits shifted to the bottom. He tilted his head back, opened his mouth wide, and poured the last salty fragment straight in. Kakaka. He chewed like a champ. Breakfast of champions. Of course, to truly finish, there was one last step. His fingers. No way was he just going to wash them. That's only what people do when they're outside pretending to be proper. At home, you lick them clean. And so he did. Amen. Still salty. Hal was satisfied. With one hand, he reached for another can of peach oolong tea, cracked it open, and drank the whole thing in one go. Gulp, 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 burp. Life's good. Now that breakfast was done, it was time to get moving. Hal stood up, stretched lazily, and headed into the back to grab a few boxes. He started restocking the shelves, moving from one section to another. He placed several neat rows of peach oolong tea into the glass door refrigerator, lining them up beside the lime fizz. The cold air brushed his skin as he slid the laskin in. Just looking at the colorful rows made him feel calm. Then he moved over to another section and opened the box of original salted potato chips. One by one, he placed them on the shelf, just a little distance away from the instant noodles. Even though it was simple work, there was a quiet joy in doing it. Seeing the shelves slowly fill up, watching the store take shape little by little, it gave him a small sense of achievement. He walked up and flipped the wooden plaque hanging by the door. Clack! Open! The store was now ready for business. The first ones to arrive were none other than the 2 jade beauties from Snow Petal Sect, Hua Fei Shue and Yu Shuyan. By now, they had grown used to the little store and its strange but amazing products. Especially Hua Fei Shue. She always talked to Hao like they were old friends. Welcome. Morning, Boss Hao. Hua Feishue greeted brightly. She looked at Hao for a moment, then narrowed her eyes a little. Is it just me, or is there something different about you today, Boss Hao? Hao blinked. Different. He paused, thinking. Then he gave a small laugh and nodded. Ah, yes. There are 2 new products today. He turned slightly and pointed. That one over there, original salted potato chip. A snack. He then gestured toward the glass shelves. As for that light pink one, that's peach oolong tea. It's a drink. Hua Feishue's eyes widened. 2. You're spoiling us today, Boss Hao. Yu Shuiyin, who had been quietly listening beside her, didn't say a word. But her eyes were already fixed on the peach oolong tea. Her cold and usually calm face showed a slight change. Her fingers twitched, as if resisting the urge to immediately grab one. Yu Shuiyin's cold and usually calm face showed a slight change. Her fingers twitched, as if resisting the urge to immediately grab one. After all, she was a tea lover. And peach oolong? That name alone was already calling out to her. While Yu Shuiyin headed straight for the glass door refrigerator, Hua Feishue walked to the shelves where the bags of original salted potato chip were neatly stacked. She tilted her head slightly as she examined the packaging. It was another type of strange container she had never seen before, smooth and shiny, with a bright design that made it stand out. She picked one up. SHFF. She paused. There was something moving inside. Curious, she gave a gentle shake. Crinkle, crinkle. There was a sound, like little pieces inside. Potato chip. Hua Feishue murmured, reading the unfamiliar words on the bag. Salted. She didn't know what a potato was. But salt? That she knew well. So this must be a salty food? Still curious, she turned her head toward the counter. Boss Hao, what's a potato chip? Hao, who was wiping the counter, looked up and chuckled. Looks like the cultivation world really doesn't have potatoes, huh? He nodded and leaned forward a little. A potato is a kind of vegetable. It grows under the ground like a root. As for a chip, he added, tapping the air with his fingers, it just means something sliced very thin. So a potato chip is a thin slice of that underground vegetable. We fry it in oil until it becomes crispy. Then we add salt or other flavors on top. Hua Feishue's eyes lit up with understanding. Oh, so it's like ginseng, also grows underground. But instead of boiling it into soup, you slice it thin and fry it. Hao gave a nod. Something like that. Hua Feishue looked at the bag again and wondered if it might give her some sort of effect like ginseng. Then her gaze dropped to the small price tag. 5 spirit crystals? Her brows twitched. This was the most expensive item in the whole store so far. She let out a small sigh and placed a hand over her storage ring. My poor money. We haven't even gone out to hunt yet. Hua Feishue glanced at Yu Shuiyin, who was already clutching a can of peach oolong tea with both hands. We've been coming here every single day. At this rate, the store's going to bleed me dry. But even as she said that, she didn't put the chip bag back. In fact, she carefully held it tighter. Hua Feishue walked over to Yu Shuiyin, her eyes full of silent pleading. She held up the bag of original salted potato chips, like a poor child showing her last hope. Senior sister, Hua Feishue whispered. Yu Shuiyin already understood. Of course she did. She glanced at the bag, then at her junior sister's sparkling eyes. A soft sigh escaped her lips. She raised a finger and gave Hua Feishue a light flick on the forehead. Just this once. Hua Feishue beamed with joy. Without any shame, she threw her arms around Yu Shuiyin's waist and gave her a quick hug. Thank you, senior sister. You're the best. Your kindness is as deep as the ocean. Yu Shuiyin's face didn't change at all, but the way her finger lightly tapped the side of the peach oolong tea gave her away. She was clearly in a good mood. The 2 girls picked out their items. Each of them bought a cup of instant noodles, one spicy beef-flavored, the other spicy chicken-flavored. Hua Feishue added a lime fizz and the original salted potato chips to her haul. Yu Xin, on the other hand, held only the peach oolong tea, treating it like a treasure. The total came to 15 crystals. After paying, the 2 girls quietly made their way to their favorite corner, where they always sat. They placed their purchases on the table, both eager to dig into their food. While the instant noodles began to cook, Hua Feishue couldn't hold back her excitement. She quickly swiped her hand over the bag of original salted potato chips, her fingers turning as sharp as ice. With a clean slice, she opened the bag effortlessly. On the other side of the table, Yu Shuyan was already reaching for the can of peach oolong tea. She took a slow, deliberate sip. Unlike the overly sweet teas she usually drank, this one was smooth, with just the right balance of sweetness and bitterness. It wasn't as sharp as cola or as tangy as lime fizz. Peach oolong tea wins. The more she drank, the more she appreciated its subtle richness, which was refreshing in a way those other drinks never could be. It wasn't overpowering, it had a natural elegance, and with every sip, she found herself savoring its distinct taste more. Clean. The taste was refreshing, soothing even, and she couldn't help but smile. There was something about it that made her feel centered, as if it had found some kind of harmony within her. After finishing the whole can, she blinked and shook her head slightly, surprised at herself. She hadn't even noticed how quickly she had drunk it all. Gone already? The feeling of balance became clearer now. She felt the tea's calming effects, as if it had stabilized her internal qi, smoothing out any chaotic imbalances. Her body felt lighter, as if the lingering tensions within her had all been eased away. Yu Shuyan immediately understood its purpose. For cultivators with unstable qi or body cultivators who constantly push their limits, this tea was perfect. It would help them stay grounded, maintaining balance within themselves. As for herself, she didn't need it as much, but she enjoyed it, especially the taste. Not bad. She bopped in approval. Yu Shuyan shifted her gaze. Her junior sister was in the middle of a full-on assault against the bag of original salted potato chips. Hua Feishue stuck her hand inside the bag like a rabbit diving into its burrow. She pulled out a few thin, golden slices and tossed them into her mouth in one motion. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Yu Shuyan blinked. There were visible crumbs clinging to the corner of Hua Feishue's lips. Is it that good? Yu Shuyan was seriously considering if she should have gotten one. Meanwhile, Hua Feishue was completely lost in her own world. The crispy slices broke apart the moment they touched her teeth, releasing a layered flavor that flooded her mouth. A satisfying crunch, a rich, oily warmth, a clean, salty finish. But the salt, it wasn't ordinary. It didn't sting or scratch like beast-preserving salts used for hide curing. This was soft, deep, and layered. There was a faint oceanic breath to it, as if the breeze from a distant coastal cliff had been sealed within. Then came something stranger. A tingle spread across her tongue. Not painful, not spicy. It felt as though her taste buds were being gently tapped awake, coaxed into clarity. A flickering sensation danced across her senses, the way a formation master might test the limits of a boundary. Hua Feishue blinked. Just as the taste should have faded, it changed again. A chill, soft and clean, like inhaling snow-fed air from a mountain peak. But with a hint of sweetness, too. Like the cool aftertaste left behind by certain frost element pills. It didn't numb, it refreshed. Her tongue felt lighter, clearer. Was this what immortals tasted in their heavenly banquets? Hua Feishue chewed with increasing speed, her hand diving into the bag like a squirrel preparing for winter. One after another, chip after chip. Is this really just a food? Why does it feel like I'm eating happiness itself? Before long, the inside of the bag had turned empty. But that wasn't enough. Her fingers, now dusted with tiny golden crumbs and a thin sheen of oil, scraped the inside one last time. Without hesitation, Hua Feishue licked them clean. One finger, then another. She blinked halfway through. Did I just... But she didn't stop. She even gave a final pop of her thumb as she pulled it from her mouth. Across from her, Yu Shuyan stared quietly, still as a statue. In Yu Shuyan's eyes, Hua Feishue behaved as if she had gone qi deviant over food. Hua Feishue patted her hands clean against each other before looking up. Senior sister, these potato chips, it's beyond extraordinary. You have to try them. Her excitement was leaking out. She leaned forward, reaching out toward Yu Shuyin, intending to grab her wrist. Just as her fingers were about to make contact, whoosh, Yu Shuyin turned her wrist and shifted back half a step. Her sleeve rippled like water. She had already seen it. The glint of oil, the sparkle of salt, and heaven forbid, a faint trace of saliva. Stop! Hua Feishue's hand froze in midair. She pulled back quickly. I'm sorry, senior sister. I didn't mean my hand still had seasoning on it, didn't it? I got too excited. I really wanted to share it with you. Her shoulders slumped a little, but her lips were still curved in a silly grin. These potato chips are dangerous, senior sister. Not only do they cost a lot of crystals, but they also make you forget your dignity. She rubbed her forehead. I think, in terms of both taste and experience, this is by far the best product the store has offered. Yu Shuyin gave Hua Feishue a long, deadpan stare. How do you feel now, Feishue? Hua Feishue tilted her head, puzzled at first. But then, her eyes lit up as if a light bulb had gone off. Oh, you're asking about its effect, right, senior sister? Yu Shuyin nodded. Honestly, I'm not sure, senior sister. Aside from its amazing taste, I haven't noticed any changes in my body. That's all I've gotten from it. Yu Shuyin raised an eyebrow. No effects. She didn't doubt Hua Feishue's ability to sense spiritual changes. Her junior wasn't careless, especially when it came to cultivation-related matters. But it was also possible the effect was too faint, not something someone at Hua Feishue's current realm could detect. Still, having no effect at all? That was impossible. Every single product in this mysterious store carried heavenly benefits. Even the cheapest item can grant someone an enlightenment. A bag of original salted potato chips was not only the newest addition, it was also the most expensive product on the sleeves. It cost 5 crystals per bag. For something that looked even simpler than instant noodles, that price was too strange. There was only one way to know the truth. She walked to the counter and handed over 5 crystals. Just like that, they were gone. Yu Shuyin could have bought 2 cans of peach oolong tea if she just added a single more crystal. Returning to the table, Yu Shuyin sat down, holding a bag of original salted potato chips. She flicked her hand. A thin layer of ice briefly coated her fingertips, forming a small blade. With a clean slice, the top of the bag opened. She reached inside and picked up a single chip. It was very thin, the kind of thin that looked like it would crumble at the slightest breeze. She took another and compared them. Same shape, same size, same delicate thickness. There was no flaw, no irregular cut. How? What sort of chef could make this? These weren't just thin slices. Every single chip in the bag was exactly the same. It was as if they had been measured one by one. To reach this level of precision, it wasn't just skill. It was mastery, a form of art. That chef must have complete control over their hands, their strength, and even their breath. A single wrong movement would ruin everything. Eyes like hawks, hands like blades. A true expert. Yu Shuyin squinted her eyes slightly. Just who made this? She shot one of the chips in her mouth. The taste was exactly as she expected, extra delicious. A banger as always. But as she chewed, the texture caught her off guard. It wasn't just the flavor that was satisfying. It was the crispness, the light crunch that made each bite feel like an experience. It wasn't heavy, and it didn't linger too long, making her want to grab another chip to relive that sensation. Yu Shuyin thought about ginseng. If they could slice it this thin, cook it like these chips, would it taste like this? She couldn't help but smile at the idea. Now that would be an interesting way to consume ginseng. Yu Shuyin ate a few more potato chips, savoring each crisp bite. But after a moment, she realized that there was still no change. Not even the slightest shift in her body, no spiritual chi disturbance. There was nothing. She scanned her body using her spiritual sense, checking her internal condition. Her spiritual chi, her meridians, everything was exactly as it should be. There was nothing out of place. Perhaps the effect wouldn't show until the whole bag was finished. She couldn't rule that out, so for now, she stayed vigilant, watching closely. Hua Feishue couldn't hide the envy in her eyes. She longed to try even just one of those chips again. If only sharing food was allowed in the store, Surely senior sister would have given her one, maybe two, or even more. Hua Feishue's mouth watered, but she quickly swallowed her desire. She was tight on crystals, and besides, she could only buy one of each product per day. Yu Shuiyin glanced down at the bag. It was almost empty now, yet still nothing. No change, no sensation. With a soft sigh, she finished the last of the chips and carefully licked her fingers, just the thumb and index finger she had used to pick them up. She paused. 1 minute, 2, and the silence within her body remained. Yu Shuiyin turned to Hua Feishue. Feishue, do you feel any changes in your body now? Hua Feishue shook her head. No, senior sister. Same as before. You didn't feel anything either? Yu Shuiyin replied. It's strange. By now, the effect from the potato chips should have taken hold. Hua Feishue leaned back. Something about this wasn't right. I really can't tell what it's supposed to do, Hua Feishue said, poking her own cheek. With a small huff, she stood up and walked over to the counter. Boss Hao, we ate the chips, and they were super delicious, but what's the effect? I mean, I know your products are always magical and all, so I was just wondering. Senior sister, and I didn't feel anything. So now I'm super curious. Yu Xian, still seated, didn't move, but her ears were clearly locked onto every word. She also couldn't figure it out, no matter how much she thought. Behind the counter, Hao rested his chin on one hand lazily. You heard that, right, system? The effect of the original salted potato chips is simple, host. It suppresses bloodlust, demonic impulses, and inner devils that can interfere with a cultivator's clarity. For 1 hour, the user is granted a state of calm lucidity, allowing them to think clearly, avoid qi deviation, and better control unstable or dangerous techniques, especially those related to demonic paths or violent breakthroughs. If a cultivator is going through a berserk transformation, bloodline awakening, or anything that stirs madness or hunger-driven rampage, eating a bag of these chips will instantly restore their reasoning and stabilize the flow of qi. In short, it's a snack that saves lives when your mind or body is on the verge of losing control. As for those two, the reason they felt nothing is because the effect doesn't apply to them. Their minds are calm, their qi is stable, and they aren't undergoing any breakthroughs or demonic episodes. So, of course, all they got was the taste. Hao repeated the system's explanation to Hua Feishue. Of course, he butchered a few details along the way, his memory already fuzzy from how long the system's answer had been. But thankfully, both Hua Feishue and Yu Shuiyin were clever enough to fill in the gaps themselves. Rather than thinking he was being careless or joking around, they simply assumed Hao was testing them. It felt like he was giving them just enough to reflect and understand on their own. Hua Feishue nodded slowly as the meaning settled in. So that's why we didn't feel anything. Yu Shuiyin also understood now. The original salted potato chips had a purpose similar to the peach oolong tea. Both helped harmonize one's internal qi, though in different ways. The tea soothed and nourished, while the chips grounded someone in the midst of chaos. Good combination. One prevents deviation before it begins. The other pulls you back when it's already too late. Even though they didn't feel anything, neither Yu Shuiyin nor Hua Feishue thought the chips were useless. They understood clearly this product just wasn't made for their current state. Their minds were steady, their cultivation paths smooth. Naturally, the effect wouldn't trigger. But in certain situations, this could be a true life-saving treasure. Unfortunately, in Sovereign City, a place filled with righteous cultivators who emphasized clear hearts and firm Tao, the need for this item was rare. It wasn't that the chips were bad. They were simply out of place. If this store's door had opened near a demonic sect or an evil cult, the original salted potato chips would have become a bestseller in an instant. Those who cultivated demonic arts, walked extreme paths, or wrestled with inner devils would fight over a product like this. No doubt about it. But for them, the chips were expensive. The flavor and texture were amazing, that was true. But aside from that, there was nothing else they could gain. If they had extra crystals lying around, they might splurge once in a while. But when times were tight, practical choices mattered more. Instant noodles, for example. Besides, food in the store couldn't be shared. Even if you had a bag of original salted potato chips, you couldn't hand it to someone else in need. The moment you tried, its effects would vanish. It couldn't be used to save others, only yourself. Even so, it had its value. Kept in a storage ring, it could serve as a backup for emergencies. Out in the wilderness, when things spiral out of control, having one on hand could make all the difference. The sound of the store's door opening pulled both girls out of their thoughts. Yu Shuiyan and Hua Feishue both looked up. They expected to see Lin Yijuan or Xiao Yanfeng, but the person who stepped inside was neither of them. A man in a long black robe entered, the hem brushing silently against the floor. Silver trim lined the robe's edges, faintly reflecting the light. His hair was snow white, loosely tied back with a dark cord. It fell straight down his back, past his waist. A cracked black, porcelain fox-shaped mask with faint gold lines running along the fractures covered his face. Smooth, empty, void. Only one eye hole revealed a red eye that stared straight into your soul. At his sides hung a pair of twin wide chakrams, connected by a long metal chain. They gave the impression they could slice air itself. Even without releasing his full pressure, his presence was like a blade drawn halfway. Yu Shuiyan tensed. Hua Feishue's pupil shrank. Their instincts screamed at them. This man was dangerous. Too dangerous. The man was suppressing his aura, right? Or was he leaking just enough to warn them? Neither of them could tell. But one thing was clear. If he wanted to, they would be dead before they could blink. A floating screen popped up in front of Hao behind the counter. Host, a potential store guardian has entered the store. Name, Tian Lu. Age, 240 cultivation. 6th stage of the Heavenly Emperor realm. His eyebrows shot up. Only one stage below the sect master of Drifting Sword Sect. Who is this guy? A grin slowly stretched across his face. This might be it. The last side task. I didn't hesitate and quickly asked the system to run a background check on Tian Lu. Spending a few crystals was nothing now. He had plenty stocked up in his wallet. A rich boy? Not quite, but definitely not broke anymore. Tian Lu, background. Once known throughout the Northern Territories as the Crimson Guillotine, Tian Lu was a wandering executioner for hire. He was never tied to any sect, righteous or demonic. As long as the coin was sufficient and the reason clear, he carried out his work with precision and silence. His name was both feared and respected. He was the blade in the dark when cultivators wanted problems erased without blood on their own hands. However, 10 years ago, he disappeared. It was said he had accepted a job too large even for him, executing the possessed heir of the Ghostwind sect. He completed it, but left with half his body broken and a chi core on the verge of collapse. Most thought he died, but he lived, retreated into Sovereign City, hiding among beggars and nameless wanderers, slowly rebuilding his body and cultivation through sheer will. He never returned to the business. Hal squinted at the screen. First little CC, now this man? Was his store secretly attracting people who should be in wanted posters? He shook the thought away. Still, Tian Lu fit the criteria perfectly. No known affiliation. Probably not a good person, but definitely a perfect candidate. Hal looked straight at Tian Lu. Welcome. Tian Lu gave a slight nod and walked straight to the counter. He looked like he was about to speak, but Hal spoke first. Are you interested in being a store guardian by any chance? We pay well. Tian Lu paused. Inside the mask, he wondered if the man before him had gone mad. Was he not afraid? His aura alone made the two disciples of Snow Petal Sect in the corner stiffen in fear. And yet this storekeeper, a mortal, didn't even flinch? He should have fainted by now. Pay well. Now that caught Tian Lu's attention. But what kind? Work? Tian Lu's voice was deep. Flat. Work? How tilted his head. Is there something wrong with his ears? Still, how explained? As I said, store guardian. You just have to protect the area I assign you. For instance, stand outside. Look scary. Make trouble disappear. That's it. Nothing weird. Except the customers. Some of them are weird. But other than that, pretty simple. Tian Lu understood now. But a question rose in his mind. How is this mortal going to pay him? Was he even well off? He reassessed everything inside the store. The shelves were strange. The layout was foreign. Everything was clean and neat, but had the weight of something expensive. Not flashy, just refined. He just wanted 3 crystals a day, maybe. Not much compared to what he used to earn. But not bad either, considering the job. Easy work, little risk. He was not in desperate need of money. But who would turn it down if it came without a blade to the neck? Just then, Hao made a casual gesture. System called the all-encompassing primordial contract. A small, silent portal opened at the base of the counter, exactly where Hao's hand could reach. A scroll slowly floated out. It hovered into Hao's hand. Neither Hua Feishue nor Yu Shuiyin noticed a thing, but Tianlu did. His eyes narrowed behind the mask. He couldn't see what exactly was it, but he could feel it. It made his scalp prickle. It set every nerve in his body on edge. He had once walked out of a demonic sect massacre without blinking. But this scroll? It made him touch his weapon. It was only for a second, but he did. Hao casually unrolled the scroll and handed it over. This is the contract for the job. Read it at least. It'll answer everything you want to know. Tianlu didn't reply. He simply took the scroll. His hand moved slow, cautious, controlled. It felt normal now. But a few seconds ago, it had felt like a god's gaze. He opened it, ready for anything. Something about it pulled at him. Curiosity, maybe, or instinct. Even if it turned out to be a trap in disguise, he had to see it for himself. Tianlu unrolled the scroll. Inside was a simple contract. At first glance, it looked like any other job agreement. But the more he read, the more unusual it felt. It was fair, too fair. Benefits for the worker were listed clearly. Flexible hours, clear terms, no hidden punishments, and most of all, no binding to any sect or oath. Tianlu digested all the information in minutes. He liked what he saw. One part caught his eye. A personal room, private, a good hideout. That alone was worth considering. He didn't care much for the free food. He no longer needed to eat, and he only needed to guard for 10 hours? That was generous. Twice as high as the usual market rate for something this easy. He frowned behind the mask. Was this real? Or was this entire store a scam dressed in gold? Hey, Hao could sense Tianlu's thoughts, even if he couldn't see his face. He didn't need to. Tianlu's hesitation was clear. Don't worry. You've read the contract. It's fair for both sides. Fair, Tianlu thought. It's more than fair. It's almost too good to be true. It was practically leaning towards the worker's side. He couldn't help but reminisce about his youth. If such an offer had existed back then, would he have strayed from the path he had chosen? Not that he regretted his choices, but the thought made him pause for a moment. Finally, with a deep breath, he nodded slightly. I agree. How? Do. Before Tianlu could continue, Hao quickly interjected. If Tianlu keep talking like this, it'll take years to sign. Just drop a little blood on the contract and it's done. Tianlu blinked. Okay. With one hand holding the scroll, Tianlu reached for his side with the other. His finger brushed the sharp edge of his chakram, causing a small scrape. Blood slowly gathered at the tip of his finger. Using his thumb, he flicked the blood, sending a single splurt of blood straight to the bottom of the contract. Completed. Nice. I didn't bother asking for Tianlu's name. After all, Hua Feishue and Yu Shuiyin might recognize him. Besides, he'd already communicated with the system to automatically fill in the details. The scroll glowed faintly before flying out of Tianlu's hands. It hovered in front of Hao, causing a stunned silence in the room. Tianlu was shocked, as were Hua Feishue and Yu Shuiyin. The flying part wasn't impressive. They could easily do that with their swords. But this was different. There wasn't even a hint of spiritual qi coming from Hao, nor any other trace of power. It just shined and flew. What is this? Tianlu thought, completely bewildered. Hao pressed his palm over the contract, sealing the agreement. The scroll's glow effect intensified, enveloping his hand in a radiant flare before. Swoosh! The light blinked out of existence, taking the contract with it. Tianlu, Hua Feishue, and Yu Shuiyin stared at the spot where the contract once was, still unsure of what they had just witnessed. Congratulations, host. You have successfully hired your second store guardian. Tian Lu's uniform and name tag have been delivered to the storage area. Please continue working hard to grow the store. Hao grinned widely and extended his hand toward Tian Lu. Welcome to the store, Lu. I think that will be your name now. Tian Lu glanced at the Hao's hand, quietly considering. He accepted the handshake. Employer. Hao nodded. I'm Hao. Across the store, Hua Feishue and Yu Shuiyin stared blankly. Their minds were not ready for what they had just seen. The dangerous man who scared them with just his presence was now an employee? Just like that? Hao turned his head toward them. He tiptoed, trying to look taller. You two watch the store for a while, okay? I'll be quick. If a customer comes, just tell them to wait, all right? Got it, boss Hao. Understood, senior. Hao turned back to Tian Lu. Follow me first, Lu. We'll get your uniform. They stepped into the back. The storage area was vast, larger than the store itself. A space formation. Tian Lu already suspected it. His employer was no ordinary mortal. He might even be stronger than me. A box waited near the center. Inside was the same uniform style as Kirome's, fit for a human this time. There's also a new pair of black tactical boots rested beside it. On top of everything sat a name tag. Tian Lu. He stood still for a moment. A strange feeling crept into his chest. All of this belonged to him now. He shut his thoughts down. No overthinking. He simply admired it all. Hao's voice came from his side. Like it? You can try it. Tian Lu looked at him. Appreciated. Employer. Hao gave a thumbs up. I'll wait for you in the store. Tian Lu saluted like a soldier, then turned to change. It didn't take long. The uniform slipped on easily. Every piece fit like it had been made for him. Not tight, not loose, just right. The black baton rested firmly in his right hand. His twin chakrams hung silently at his sides. Then he stepped out of the storage room. The store's lights washed over him. To the two girls, it felt like a new person had entered. Still the same man, but not the same presence. He looked cleaner, sharper, less like a shadow, more like someone with purpose. His aura remained unchanged, still heavy, still choking, but not as much as before. Hao looked up, smiled. Looks good on you, Lu. Tian Lu gave a small bow. Employer. I want to work. Hao shook his head. All right, all right. He walked over to the shelves, grabbed a bag of salted original potato chips, then reached for a cold can of peach oolong tea. With a smooth throw, he tossed both toward Tian Lu. Tian Lu caught them in one large hand. His ring and pinky fingers hooked around the bag. Thumb, index, and middle cradled the can. Not a tremble, not a shake. Perfect grip. Hao let out a low whistle. Now that's style. All right, you can start guarding outside. Tian Lu gave a single nod, then turned and walked out the front door, his back straight. The black baton rested against his shoulder. Tian Lu stood by the entrance. Hua Feishue finally spoke. Boss Hao, that man, is he a new worker for the store? Yeah, store guardian. She blinked. A store guardian. May I ask, what are the requirements for such a role? My guess. Just be strong enough to go head-to-head with a sect master or something. Ah. Hua Feishue lost all words. Yu Shuiyin's gaze remained on the door where Tian Lu had left. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Strong enough to rival a sect master? That's at least Heavenly Emperor realm. No wonder his presence was so suffocating. It didn't feel righteous or demonic. Just heavy, like a blade hanging above. Yu Shuiyin glanced at Hao again. Senior Hao. He didn't seem worried at all. Of course. That level of cultivator. Tamed? Under senior. Even monsters could work like common folk. As long as Tian Lu remained within the bounds of the store, he wouldn't dare cause trouble. If he did, he would probably be obliterated by senior before he could even lift a finger. No chance to retaliate at all. Based on how senior had treated things since their first day here, one thing was clear. He didn't want trouble, just peace and slow life. He only wanted to sell his products quietly, and anyone who disturbed that would definitely regret it. Hua Feishue blew on her noodles and took a slurp. Ha! Yu Shuiyin lifted hers with a bit more grace. But even she moved faster. The noodles were ready, and delicious. Meanwhile, Hao opened his system screen. He had been waiting for this. He had completed everything. Side task 2. Hire 2 store guardians. Leaving the store defenseless isn't exactly a good idea, is it? Progress. 1/2, February 2nd. Requirement. Each store guardian must possess power equivalent to the Heavenly Emperor realm or higher. Reward. Unlock employees' safety badges. It will be delivered to the storage area after business hours. Status completed. Claim your reward now. Reward claimed. The screen flashed. All tasks completed. New tasks have been assigned. The store has entered a new phase, host. Keep up the hard work and grow it even further. New phase. His eyes narrowed. Was it finally? He had hoped, but he wouldn't celebrate too early. He scrolled down a check. Only 2 tasks. He expected more. But this. Main task 1. Accumulate 1,000 crystals through product sales. Progress. 0 of 1,000. Reward. Store upgrade unlocked. A new door will be established randomly somewhere on the Azure Sky continent. Could lead to a city, a cave, or someone's backyard vegetable patch. The system takes no responsibility. Your luck, your problem. So this is what it meant by new phase. A store upgrade. He'd speculated something like that. Expansion. Maybe better functions. But what caught his attention most? A new door. New people. New customers. New chaos. The first was connected to Sovereign City. Where would the next one lead? He clapped his hands together like a beggar. Please don't be a cow pen. He whispered to the heavens. Or a swamp. Or a pit. Or someone's freaking comfort room. If it was just the backyard of some sect, fine. But please, for the love of all things holy, don't drop me in someone's damn chocolate factory. Side task 1. Sell 30 bags of original salted potato chips and 50 cans of peach oolong tea. Progress. 0/30 bags. 0/50 cans. Reward. System upgrade to version 2.0. Unlocks the option to unseal your meridians. Crystal payment required. So get those savings ready. Yes. How nearly punched the air. That's it. This is the one. I thought the new phase was just about sales, but this is it. I'm going to be a cultivator. His eyes gleamed like he just saw treasure. This is my path. Finally, even if I suck, even if my talent is trash, as long as I can cultivate, I'll take it. He looked at his hand, as if imagining spiritual chi swirling around it. Will I be able to ride a sword? And leave the store for real? The system had said before, he couldn't go far as immortal. But now, his dream was closer. Then he paused. His excitement deflated a little. Crystal payment required, huh? He sighed. Cultivation isn't free after all. System, can I get a little discount or something? You know, owner benefits? The system didn't hesitate. No, host. That fast. Not even a second of consideration. Come on. I'm the store owner. Shouldn't I get some sort of manager's discount? All the more reason to be dignified, host. Imagine if your employees saw you begging. Shameful. You are the owner, not a street vendor. Please act like one, host. You represent the face of the store. Don't beg. Have some self-respect. How nearly choked. What kind of system are you? How clutched his chest like he was betrayed. Why are you still so cruel to me, system? I'm a chosen one, right? He staggered back a step. Is this the fate of all protagonists? Struggling to afford their first cultivation journey. The kind that doesn't reward lazy behavior. Are you trying to haggle your way into the path of cultivation? Host. What next? Buy 1 meridian unsealing, get 1 free? That doesn't sound bad. Absolutely not. He gave up. Too stubborn. This thing had the soul of a grumpy old teacher. Maybe even worse than his high school homeroom. The day rolled on. Afternoon sunlight tried its best to reach the alley where the dimensional convenience store's door was connected, but only managed to light up a few trash cans and 1 very confused rat. There were no customers. Only MOCC and Qrome sitting in the corner, waiting for their noodles. The 2 black kittens, Suki and Yoru, were chasing each other across the aisle. They had grown fast. No longer palm-sized, they were now half the size of their mother. How noticed their claws. Sharp, clear as crystal, slightly curved at the tips. If they kept growing this way, they'd be terrifying in 2 months. Or maybe even sooner. How could only hope they'd learn to control their size like their mother. Tian Lu's work shift had ended. He walked back in, silent as always. Hao pointed at Tian Lu with his thumb, then waved casually at the others. This is Tian Lu, a new store guardian. MOCC looked up from her seat, her noodle cup still steaming. Her face stayed neutral, but she instinctively clenched the chopsticks a little harder. Kirom raised a paw without standing up, gaze sharp. Another store guardian like me? The two of them took a quick measure of Tian Lu. They both felt it. There was no hiding it. His strength was obvious. Power, heavy and solid like a mountain. Whether he couldn't or was intentionally making it known, it was hard to tell. MOCC's guard shot up. For a moment, she was ready to vanish into the storage room, but she relaxed just as quickly. Another employee. Boss hired a strong one again, even stronger than her. By far, she already knew she was the youngest in the store, barely 13, already at the Heavenly King realm, stronger than most peak geniuses in her age. Even so, compared to Tian Lu, she felt like a toddler holding a wooden stick. It frustrated her, not the feeling of weakness, but the reminder that she was still far from the top. Oof. She turned away like she didn't care. The kittens froze mid-pounce. Their fur stood on end. One of them meowed, short and sharp. Tian Lu stared back, then nodded. No hostility, just acknowledgement. Hao smiled and clapped his hands once. Let me introduce you to. He pointed at the small girl. That's MOCC, our youngest store crew member. MOCC put down her chopsticks and crossed her arms. HMPF. Even if I'm the youngest, you're still the newest. So that makes you my junior, got it? Tian Lu blinked, then gave a small nod. Understood. He knew who this was. Not by face, but by reputation. If it was really her, MOCC, heir of the Ashen Curse cult. Many years ago, someone offered him a mission to kill her. He refused immediately. The Ashen Curse cult wasn't just demonic. It was terrifying. They could make your body rot from the inside, curse your bloodline, and worse. Even if he succeeded, he'd be hunted for life. But the sect crumbled on its own. He thought she died with it. And yet, here she was, alive, safe, working in a store. Tian Lu could feel MOCC's strength. She had to be far beyond a mere prodigy to have reached the Heavenly King realm at such a young age. He was intrigued by this kid. He couldn't help but wonder how his employer had managed to recruit someone like her. Hao gestured toward the black cat beside MOCC. This is Kirom, the first store guardian. You two will be switching shifts. Morning or night, talk it out between yourselves. Tian Lu glanced. A normal-looking house cat, but only in appearance. He could feel it. This was no ordinary beast. This was a spirit beast. A powerful one, not weaker than him. Perhaps even stronger. Spirit beasts were different from humans. Their cultivation path followed instinct and bloodline. Some are born strong. Others awakened terrifying gifts through age and enlightenment. Their stage might show one realm, but their true combat power could reach far beyond. This cat gave off that kind of pressure. A long-lived creature, cloaked in shadows. A voice entered his mind. Elegant, calm, ancient. Greetings, Tian. May I take the night shift? I'm stronger when the sun goes down. Tian Lu's gaze flickered. Stronger at night? A nocturnal spirit beast? A shadow-born existence? Then slowly nodded. I agree. Greetings, too. He had no problem with the arrangement. Guarding during the day was enough. If he could gain favor with a spirit beast like this, all the better. He valued strength, and those who knew when to speak, and when to stay silent. Thank you, Lu. I'll repay this favor when the time comes. Tian Lu gave a quiet nod. No. Need. All. Fair. He turned and walked toward the counter. Tian Lu bowed. Appreciate. Employer. Hao blinked, face full of confusion. What is it, Lu? Tian Lu didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his storage ring. He took out 2 items, an empty can of peach oolong tea, and an empty bag of original salted potato chips. He placed them gently on the counter, as if they were treasures. Hao stared, then stared some more. Few hours ago, when Tian Lu had stepped outside the store for patrol, the wind brushed against his neck. And just like always, the pressure in his chest began to swell. Something deep within him stirred again. Dark, chaotic, violent. He clenched his jaw and sat by the alley wall. A bead of sweat dripped down. This feeling, it had haunted him for years, like a curse that never faded. He had endured it, day after day. Pain, madness, an itch in the soul. But today, when it began, he had already opened a drink, a bag of chips in hand. He took a sip, something changed. A warmth spread through his chest, like quiet sunlight rising in his veins. He paused, then kept drinking. Each swallow calmed something deeper. Then the chips, crunch after crunch. Nothing at first, but the moment he finished the last one, everything hit at once. The storm in his chest quieted. The tightness in his thoughts loosened. No pain, no rage, no torment. For the first time in a long time, he felt human. It was temporary, but it was enough. Enough for him to feel like he wasn't falling apart for once. Enough for him to feel like he wasn't fighting every breath. That brief moment of peace was like stepping into paradise. A small taste of what life could be without pain. It was precious. He looked at Hal. More. Tian Lu said. Hal wasn't offended. At this point, he was already used to Tian Lu's single-word dictionary. This man probably thought emotions were optional DLC. The chips and tea? Tian Lu nodded once. Hal raised a brow. He had no problem with the tea. But the chips? He turned to the system. System, does the original salted potato chips count as a meal for employees? Yes, host. It is included. Each employee may select from available stock. Instant noodles or original salted potato chips for meals. And one drink to accompany it. Limitations may change depending on store version. Please upgrade to unlock more options. So it really counts. Not bad. Hal glanced at Tian Lu with a relaxed smile. You can get one now if you want, Lu. No need to hold back. Tian Lu gave a firm nod. Thank you, employer. Tian Lu walked over to the shelves. He picked one bag of original salted potato chips and a can of peach oolong tea. He made his way to the corner, just one seat apart from Kirom and MOCC. He sat down, tilted his head slightly in their direction. Just a glance. Then he faced forward again. With a swift motion, he tore open the bag, crinkling plastic unfolding with a crisp, clean sound, and began to eat. Crunch, crunch. If one could peer behind Tian Lu's mysterious mask, they might catch a rare sight. An old man quietly savoring joy. Each chip that entered his mouth was a divine reward, as if the heavens themselves had fried them just for him. The ruthless executioner of 100 silent deaths, now defeated by potato chips. If those who once feared him saw him now, they might doubt their memories and wonder if Tian Lu had a long-lost twin who simply loved foods too much. MOCC raised her head. Boss, these two, there are new products? Yeah, little CC. Is it good, boss? You'll have to see for yourself. I'll try one later, boss. I'm sticking with instant noodles today. She spoke like she wasn't curious, but her gaze kept drifting to Tian Lu's chips. Still, she didn't let herself be distracted for long. She had already decided to focus everything on growing her strength, her cultivation, her skills, her future, because she didn't know what might come. What if her pursuers found this place? She didn't want her boss to be dragged into trouble because of her, even if she already had a rough idea of how unfathomably strong he truly was. He had given her everything, a place to stay, a life without fear, food she had never even dreamed of. She didn't want to repay that with danger. So she had to grow stronger, much stronger. If that day ever came, she would be ready. Night fell over Sovereign City. Faint moonlight filtered through the alley, casting long shadows over crates, barrels, and trash bins. MOCC stood behind the counter, chin lifted slightly, a serious look on her face. Responsibility had passed into her small hands. For the next few hours, she was the store's keeper. Outside, Kirom stood by the door. She wore the standard uniform for store guardians. If one didn't know better, they'd say she looked adorable. But one wrong move near the store? Adorable would be the last word you'd remember. Hal was half dozing in the corner. One eye closed, the other barely open. He had shown Tian Lu to his private room on the second floor earlier, and even took time to pat the kittens goodnight. Peace. Until, creak, the door opened. A figure stepped in with confident steps and a familiar glint in his eye. Ji Yunji. Gone for days. Still bald. How didn't even move? He just opened the other eye. What's this rogue alchemist up to now? Yunji didn't stop at the shelves or the counter. Instead, he walked straight toward Hao. His eyes were bright, almost blinding. Hao briefly wondered if it was his gaze or the glow bouncing off his bald head. Storekeeper, I've concocted something. Hao blinked. Concocted? Yes, storekeeper. A pill. Yunji confirmed proudly. Inspired by your cola. There was a dramatic pause. MOCC looked up. I've attempted to replicate its effects, Yunji said, taking out a small, see-through jade bottle from his storage ring. Inside were several rounded pellets, dark brown with a faint glossy sheen, each one dusted in specks of silvery powder. Effects of cola? You're asking the wrong person, bro. I'm not even a cultivator yet. If I take that, I might just get diarrhea instead of enhancement. He stared at the shiny pellets. What if this thing explodes in my stomach? What if it turns me into a talking cow? But Ji Yunji was looking at him with that expectant sparkle in his eyes, like a child showing off a drawing to his strict dad. Hao sighed internally. He couldn't just refuse the guy. Now when Ji Yunji was clearly one of those people who misunderstood him completely. Another one who thought Hao was some higher being from the upper realms. An immortal storekeeper disguised as a mortal. But in truth, he was just a dude who got roped into running a convenience store by a system that threatened to castrate him if he didn't sell a cup of instant noodles in 3 days. Not exactly the majestic background everyone imagined. System, can you analyze the ingredients and effects of this pill for both a cultivator and for me? Analysis will cost 5 crystals, host. How resisted the urge to sigh? A system, huh? The so-called cheat meant to guide him to greatness. Now acting more like a stingy landlord collecting rent. Other main characters got divine support, unlimited treasures, and cultivation manuals raining from the sky. His system felt closer to a stingy merchant. Fine, whatever. Analysis will begin once the pill is in your possession. Host. No need to consume it. All right, holding out his hand. Let me try one. Ji Yunji's eyes practically sparkled even more. He hurriedly opened the jade bottle with a click. He carefully transferred one of the pills in Hao's palm. Here, storekeeper. Thank you for taking the time to try it out. Analyzing now, host. After just 5 seconds, floating screen appeared in front of Hao. Ingredients detected. Nerve leaf resin. Commonly found in jungle regions or spirit gardens with high vitality chi. Effect. Stimulates nervous system activity. Enhances muscle twitch speed and perception reaction. Note. Can cause tremors if overdosed. Used in low-grade speed pills. Mirror fish flake dust. Harvested from dried scales of spirit fish that live in fast-moving, clear rivers. Effect. Enhances sensory clarity and eye-hand coordination. Especially helpful in detecting motion. Note. Often used by archers or close combat cultivators. Gale nut extract. Grows on short, twisting vines in windy hills or open plains. Effect. Temporarily improves air step and footwork coordination. Gives the sensation of lightness. Note. Slightly spicy to the meridians. Useful for movement techniques. Ashwood charcoal powder. Collected from trees struck by lightning or burned in controlled chi fires. Effect. Grounds excess energy, allowing explosive boosts without chi deviation. Note. Often used in tempering pills for body cultivators. Lightweight or residue. Found near flowing iron streams or spirit forging sites. Effect. Strengthens muscular control and nerve connection between brain and limbs. Note. Popular in lightweight physical training pills. Cheap but effective when refined well. Clarity mint grass. Grows on flat mountaintops with consistent breeze and low cloud coverage. Effect. Calms the mind, improves multitask awareness. Reduces mental delay when switching focus. Note. Used in calming incense and focus-enhancing tonics. Side effects. After the boost fades, User experiences a crash period of about 2 hours. During this time, spiritual flow slows. Physical strength reduced by half. Response time worsens to below normal levels. Mild dizziness and joint weakness may occur. This is a clever blend, host. Extremely rare and brilliantly combined. This pill pushes the body into overdrive. Recoil is expected. Advise against using twice within the same day. How scrolled through the system screen slowly, pretending to adjust his sleeves while his thumb tapped over the floating panel. He kept his expression calm. If MOCC or Ji Yunji caught him staring into thin air, they might assume something was wrong with him. Or worse, think he was about to go insane. He didn't read every word, just skimmed, letting parts of it sink in naturally. 1 or 2 ingredients caught his attention. Something about fish scales, nuts that grew in the wind. The more he read, the more ridiculous it felt. But in a good way. This pill shouldn't be possible. And yet, Ji Yunji did it. He never once asked Hao for details about cola. No list of ingredients, no research notes. The man drank a can, tasted the flavor, and somehow reverse-engineered a pill that mimicked the effects. It didn't even take him a year. Just days. This guy's insane. Hao thought. Insanely talented. System. What about the effects of pill on me? Assessing compatibility with host's current condition. Results for host. Non-cultivator body detected. Effects. Temporary increase in heart rate. Heightened adrenaline. Sharper reflexes for 3 to 5 minutes. May improve balance and eyesight slightly during that window. However, severe backlash expected after peak wears off. Side effects for host include dizziness, nausea, muscle cramps, diarrhea, dehydration, and minor blood vessel stress. Risk of fainting or temporary sensory overload. Not fatal. Not recommended. Well, nah. Hao blinked twice and narrowed his eyes at the screen. He wasn't a cultivator, sure, but even a blind squirrel could read the last 2 words of that report. Not recommended. That was all he needed to see. He didn't even bother reading minor blood vessel stress again. Why? Because it sounded way too close to vein explosion for comfort. Was he in a life-or-death fight right now? No. Was he being chased through a demonic forest by vengeful sect elders? Nope. He was sitting in a store, half asleep, and surrounded by amazing products. Taking this pill now would be the equivalent of drinking 6 cans of energy drink, snorting chili powder, and then doing parkour across a minefield. All for what? 5 minutes of fake Spider-Man reflexes and a full body shutdown afterward. Absolutely not. This thing's a whole death buff. Side effects longer than the benefits. Sounds like a mobile game ad. He stared at the cute, deceptively innocent pill in his palm. No way in hell he was taking this pill. He still had a long life to live. Okay? Preferably one that didn't involve spontaneous combustion or collapsing in the bathroom like a failed video game speedrun. Without hesitation, Hao extended his hand and carefully returned the pill to Ji Yunji. His expression shifted, eyes narrowed, lips pursed, nodding ever so slightly. The face of a man who had seen through the Tao. A face that screamed, "I've tasted the laws of the universe," and spat them out like expired yogurt. I do not need to take it. I have already analyzed the pill. He folded his hands behind his back like some kind of alchemy elder standing atop a mountain. Totally not a guy who had just read a system screen while pretending to stretch his neck. Ji Yunji blinked in awe. You have, storekeeper? Hao nodded. It's a brilliant concoction. You didn't rely on traditional refining methods. No, you broke past convention. You innovated. You used nerve leaf resin for neurological stimulation, didn't you? Bold. A bit spicy on the nerves, but good. Ji Yunji's eyebrows lifted slightly. And mirror fish flake dust. That one's not common in reaction pills. But it's excellent for motion clarity, especially when paired with clarity mint grass. Hao gave a slow, approving nod like he'd just tasted a fine aged tea and was deciding if it was 100 or 101 years old. You even used lightweight or residue to reinforce limb connection, refined enough to avoid sluggish rebound. Smart. And the gale nut extract? That touch of wind-drawn agility. Clever layering. Ji Yunji's mouth parted in astonishment. This was recognition. Deep understanding. He was being seen. But it's ashwood charcoal that really ties the whole thing together. Grounds the explosive energies. Keeps the user from chi deviation. How close his eyes briefly. There's still some crash backlash. 2 hours of weakness. Reduced strength. Dizzy joints. But you've controlled the onset well. No soul-shaking rebound. No meridian tearing. He nodded again, very slowly. Solid foundation. Yunji. It's only the beginning, but a brilliant beginning. Ji Yunji stared at Hao, expression flickering between shock and admiration. He hadn't even finished recording all the side effects himself. The backlash was something he suspected, but hadn't confirmed. And yet, the storekeeper already knew? All of it. Down to the muscular weakening, the slowed spiritual flow, even the dizziness. Hao hadn't taken the pill, hadn't refined it, hadn't asked for ingredients. Just touched it, as expected of an omnipotent being. A true existence from the upper realms. A divine alchemist whose understanding transcended mortal comprehension. Just holding the pill had been enough for him to sense its entirety. The balance, the instability, the fine threading of conflicting properties. He'd even named each ingredient without hesitation. The truth became clearer in Ji Yunji's heart. The storekeeper had to be the creator of cola himself, or at the very least, involved in its production. No wonder the concoction he tried to replicate had such bizarre and potent effects. He was trying to match something created by him. The man before him was not merely talented. He was beyond what could be called genius. He was a walking miracle. Ji Yunji's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. I see now. I was too narrow in vision. The rogue alchemist was still digesting that praise. Eyes practically glazed over from the dopamine hit. While on the other side, Hao stood there arms crossed, one brow slightly raised, giving exactly zero clarification. Internally? Bro, I just didn't want to vomit blood in the bathroom. I'll do my best to improve it further, storekeeper. I know it's shameless to ask this, but do you think you could give me even a single hint? Just a nudge in the right direction? Hao's left eye almost twitched. He barely held it back. System, help me again. Just one tip to pass on. Make it sound wise or something. It will cost 2 crystals, host. Proceed. Hao gritted his teeth. I already paid you 5 crystals. Why are you charging me for every breath like some mobile data plan? Knowledge is not free, host. He exhaled slowly. Before the system could continue with one of its smug retorts, he snapped, Fine, fine. Start it. Just letting off steam. I know beggars can't be choosers. Doesn't mean I can't complain. 2 crystals deducted. Recommend incorporating a stabilizing catalyst with harmonizing properties. Specifically, seek an ingredient that possesses dual nature qualities, cooling without dampening energy and invigorating without overstimulation. For example, something that carries yin-based qi to cool the meridians, but with a trace of yang intent to maintain inner momentum. A spiritual herb grown under moonlight but nourished by morning dew may qualify. It must be gentle enough not to override the main effect, but firm enough to smooth spiritual flow during peak activation. The key issue in the current formula lies in the abrupt energy spike. Once the nervous system is triggered and physical reflexes heightened, the body enters an unsustainable high alert state. Without a proper buffer, the crash afterward becomes severe. By introducing a harmonizing agent, the pill can be made to ease into its peak instead of slamming into it, and taper down instead of collapsing. End result: reduced side effects, prolonged effect duration, improved safety margin. Note: this adjustment will not weaken the main effect, but will stabilize its release. With smoother qi flow and reduced backlash, the pill will be safe to use more than twice per day with proper intervals. At least the crystals were worth it this time. Not that they ever weren't, but still. Let me pretend I got a bargain for once. Hao turned back toward Ji Yunji, clearing his throat. I'll only say this once, so listen well. The force of the pill's effect hits too sharp and too fast. You need something to anchor the transition. Let it ramp up, not slam in. Which, of course, really just meant he was too lazy to repeat himself. If this was a sect lecture, he'd be the elder who gave one speech and left the rest to fate. Look for an ingredient with both a cooling and energizing nature. Something that doesn't interrupt the flow, just eases it. Gentle but stabilizing. That kind of harmony's what'll let it work more than twice a day without wrecking the user. No grand lectures. No over-explanation. Ji Yunji stared, then slowly nodded, his eyes sharpening with every second. His mind already danced with possibilities. A buffer without resistance. An Een-based energy with just a trace of active movement. He muttered, chewing through the concept. It's elegant and stable. Of course he'd use the advice. But that didn't mean he'd stop at just what he was told. Ji Yunji's pride didn't allow him to cling to someone else's wisdom blindly. He'd build on it, improve it, test multiple options, layer the solution, turn it into something only he could craft. He bought another can before leaving, holding it carefully in both hands like it was a sacred blueprint. There were more treasures in the store. He could feel it. But Ji Yunji was the kind of alchemist who finished one obsession before chasing the next. To him, alchemy was truth, not politics, not profit, truth and freedom. And he'd rather burn alone in his furnace of discovery than follow anyone else's fire. Hao sighed in relief as Ji Yunji disappeared through the door. He rubbed his temples. Hopefully, he won't come back every day asking questions. At this rate, he'll drain my entire earnings if I keep asking the system for answers. The next day, the reward for completing the previous side task arrived. Hao opened it to find 3 small octagonal badges. The design was simple yet striking. The badges were matte black with a faint purple gradient that deepened toward the center, giving them a mysterious aura. At the heart of each badge sat a small purple gemstone, slightly raised, its glow barely visible. It looked quiet for now, but something about it told how it wasn't just for decoration, like it was waiting for the right moment to light up. Silver engravings decorated the edges, and a dark chrome border completed the polished finish. Looks cool. Hao muttered, inspecting them. But what exactly do these things do? The employee safety badges, host, are defensive artifacts designed to protect the wearer from powerful attacks. Each badge can fully withstand one attack from a cultivator within the Divine Monarch realm once a day.